Chapter 964. How about this? If I can think of a way to help you fight for the position of the young master, can you get in touch with some of the core secrets of the Tianyu mine? Xiao Qin had regained his composure and asked straightforwardly. After listening to the words of the elder heaven ancestor, Xiao Qin's originally worried heart finally relaxed. Since the elder heaven ancestor said that the venerable one was not as awesome as him, what was there to be afraid of? If one came he would kill one. If two came he would kill both. Xiao Qin immediately decided to use the Jia family as an entry point to enter the inner martial arts world. The Jia family had shares of the Tianyu mine. As long as he could help Jia Muzin get the position of the young master, he would be one step closer to finding his father. What? You can help me fight for the position of the young master? Jia Muzin was shocked and looked at Xiao Qin in shock. His face was full of disbelief. Yes, that venerable one is no big deal. I can kill him. Xiao Qin said lightly, looking very awesome. However, just as he finished boasting shamelessly, the voice of the elder heaven ancestor sounded in his mind at the wrong time. You can't kill him. With your attitude he can kill you. Xiao Qin was stunned and asked doubtfully, Elder heaven ancestor, didn't you just say that I was awesome? What? I said that a cultivator is awesome, but the premise is that your level can keep up. The elder heaven ancestor exposed him mercilessly. Even if you are a lion when you were a cub, you couldn't stand it if a wild horse kicked you. What should I do? Xiao Qin felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. Don't brag. Be careful when you meet the venerable one. He can't kill you, the elder heaven ancestor said lightly. At most, no one can kill anyone. What if I level up? Xiao Qin asked tentatively. A small flame of hope was ignited in his heart. He can kill anyone at any time. The elder heaven ancestor answered decisively. Understood. In that case I have to hurry up and go for dual cultivation. Xiao Qin immediately grasped the crux of the problem, and he no longer felt guilty. Xiao Qin, did you just say that you can kill a venerable? What exactly is your strength? Jia Muzin was shocked for a long time before he came back to his senses. He couldn't help but carefully ask. His strength must be very high. Xiao Qin asked anxiously, just tell me if it's feasible or not. Jia Muzin's spirit shook and he immediately nodded and said, if I become the young patriarch, then there's definitely no problem. Young master has access to the core secrets. I can find a way to find whatever information you want. He was a little surprised. He didn't expect Xiao Qin to offer to help. Originally, he thought that he would be thanking the heavens and the earth if he could get the position of elder. In the end, Xiao Qin actually went straight for the position of young patriarch. All right. That's settled then. Xiao Qin nodded. We'll all stay here for the next few days. We can take care of each other. Otherwise, it'll be troublesome if the Jia family comes again. I don't have a problem with that, but... Jia Muzin looked at the four girls, a little troubled. This house is only so big. Will it be inconvenient for everyone to live together? Looking at the people present, Ling Qianxue and Cheng Menjing were Xiao Qin's real girlfriends. It seemed like Tian Wangchuan had also been won over. There were only 2 rooms in this house. Jia Muzin pondered. He couldn't possibly live with Su Chuxia, could he? You don't have to worry about that. Xiao Qin smiled. In this building there are many rooms that belong to Tian Wangchuan. She took advantage of the low price to hoard a few houses. It's not a problem for everyone to live separately. After hearing this, Tian Wangchuan hurriedly took out the keys to the other rooms and placed them in front of everyone, letting them choose whichever they wanted. Because Xiao Qin, Cheng Menjing, and Ling Qianxue wanted to cultivate, they chose room 1501 next door. Su Chuxia and Tian Wangchuan stayed in the original room 1502. Jia Muzin was too lazy to pick a room alone. He casually took the key to room 1402 downstairs and moved in. Although it was indeed better to live alone, Jia Muzin felt uncomfortable looking at Xiao Qin surrounded by so many beauties. He sighed in his heart that everyone had different fates. Fortunately, he was open-minded and did not take it to heart. After the rooms were assigned in the next few days, Xiao Qin seized the time to cultivate. Everyone only gathered at Su Chuxia's house for lunch and dinner. Xiao Qin cooked for everyone, then they chatted for a while before going their separate ways. They rarely saw each other during other times. Tian Wangchuan saw that Xiao Qin closed the door every day and played 3P with Ling Qianxue and Cheng Menjing. She couldn't help but feel sad and envious. However, she couldn't muster up the courage and was too embarrassed to participate. Although Tian Wangchuan was usually bolder when it came to this kind of thing, as a girl she was still a bit thin-skinned. That day, Chixing rushed out of the door and immediately ran back to the dormitory. She called Elder Sun to report the situation. Elder son, that Xiao Yi really is Xiao Qin. And according to my observation, his strength has already advanced to the peak of the 7th level of the Demon King realm. What should we do next? After the call went through, Chick Xing immediately explained the situation. What? Xiao Qin is already this powerful? Are you sure you're not mistaken? On the other end of the phone, Elder Son's voice was extremely shocked. Isn't this Xiao Qin's leveling speed too fast? Why is it like he's riding a rocket? No. Previously, he used a godly weapon to kill 2 of the Jia family's underlings. His strength leaked out. I saw it clearly. Chick Xing said with certainty. Jia family? How did he get involved with the Jia family? Elder Son sharply caught onto the suspicious point and asked in surprise. I'm not too sure about the specifics. I heard that it's because of a girl called Tian Wangchuan. Chick Xing was also confused about this point. She could only say what she knew. Tian Wangchuan? Elder Son frowned and tried to recall for a while. He really couldn't remember such a name in the inner martial arts world. Thus he said, let's not care about this first. Find a way to find Ma Wuzhao and let him deal with Xiao Qin as soon as possible. That matter is about to start. We must let Ma Wuzhao make a move as soon as possible and lure that person out. This. Chick Xing was a little depressed. She thought to herself, this guy is hiding without a trace. Even you can't find him, how am I going to find him? What's wrong? Elder Son heard Chick Xing's hesitation and his tone became a little serious. It's like this, Elder Sunday. I also discovered something just now. Chick Xing suddenly thought of something and immediately came up with a plan. She eagerly reported, Xiao Qin is actually working with a netherworld cultivator in the mortal world. Do you think we can make use of this and secretly frame Xiao Qin and then my ass? Before Chick Xing could finish, she was rudely interrupted by Elder Sunday. Chick Xing was stunned. Did I say something wrong? Chapter 965. Elder Son continued to scold her angrily. I say, have you become stupid after staying in the secular world? If you spread this news and attract a bunch of martial artists to attack Xiao Qin, then no matter how strong he is, he will still die. You were the only outsider at the scene. If it wasn't you who spread the news, who else could it be? Wouldn't that be selling out the entire awakening sect? This. Miss Xing was at a loss for words. She realized that she had indeed been too impatient and thoughtless. What's more, even if that person really comes out, our awakening heaven sect will also be finished. Elder Son reprimanded in exasperation. Alright, don't bother with those useless things. Quickly think of a way to find Ma Baixia and let him deal with Xiao Qin. This disciple understands. Little Miss Xing replied dejectedly. Give me a reply if there's any news. With that, Elder Son hung up the phone. Hearing the busy tone from the phone, Miss Xing sighed and thought to herself, you make it sound so easy. If Ma Beijiao was so easy to find, why would I even bring up this idea? What if he's already dead? Even though she was filled with resentment, she still had to complete the task given by the sect. Miss Xing thought for a while and decided to write a letter to the Kuei Mountain sect. She told Ma Beijiao about Xiao Qian's specific location and hoped that he would come as soon as he saw the letter. After sending the letter, Miss Xing wandered around the streets listlessly. She was at a loss. In the past few months, she had been searching for Xiao Qian's whereabouts. Now that she had finally found him, she had to go back to find Ma Beijiao. This way, not only would her cultivation progress be severely delayed, but she would also not be able to participate in the plan. She was too unlucky. Just as Miss Xing was vexed over her bad luck, Xiao Qin and his group had just finished dinner at Su Chuxia's house and were chatting idly. She didn't know what was wrong with Tian Suruan again. He kept chatting with Ling Qianxue and Qing Menjing, and they were all talking about irrelevant things. He talked about random topics and the topics were endless. The 2 girls wanted to leave earlier, but seeing Sour's excited expression, they were too embarrassed to say it out loud. They could only sit there and accompany her, occasionally chiming in. Su Chuxia saw that Ling Qianxue and Qing Menjing were a little embarrassed, so she said, Sour, stop pestering Qianxue and Menjing. They're going to cultivate with Xiao Qin and you've been resting at home for a few days. It's time for you to go back to school. Let's sleep early tonight or else you'll refuse to go to bed tomorrow. What class? Xiao Qin had already helped us apply for leave, and he himself didn't go to class. Why should I go? What if he encountered danger again? No one can protect Sister Sour now. Tian Sour curled his lips. Ah, when did you ask for leave? Why didn't I know about this? Su Chuxia was surprised to hear this news. I applied for leave this morning and the school has already agreed, Xiao Qin said. Since he was busy cultivating, there was nothing for him to do at school. If Jia Huoyin's people or Ma Baiji came, it would be more dangerous for everyone to split up. Therefore, Xiaoqun gave Xia Zhili a call and asked him to communicate with the school to apply for leave for everyone. Anyway, they could go back anytime they wanted. Seeing Su Chuxia's surprised expression, Tian Sour pulled her hand and said, "Chuxia, why don't you skip class too? That Shui Gao is like a fly, always pestering you. There's no point in going. Why don't you just stay at home and accompany Sister Sour? Why didn't you tell me in advance?" Su Chuxia complained. She was a little hesitant. Although she felt that Shui Gao was annoying, she felt that it was wrong to skip class. She felt conflicted. "I'm sorry, Chuxia. I already explained the situation to Professor Su this morning and he agreed," Xiaoqun said apologetically. "This is a critical time, I hope you can understand." "It's okay, I was just a little surprised and wasn't mentally prepared." Su Chuxia waved her hand. Tian Sour was still chatting with Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue. Seeing that it was getting late, Xiaoqun walked over and reminded them, "Miser Sour, eldest young mistress Qianxue, and I still have to prepare to go to Sanxiu. You guys can chat tomorrow." Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue also stood up and prepared to leave. "Wait." Tian Sour suddenly stood up and shouted as she watched the three of them walk to the door. Seeing that Xiaoqun and the others had turned their heads, Tian Sour's face turned slightly red. She said shyly, "Xiaoqun, take me with you." What?" Xiaoqun didn't understand and asked blankly. "Together. Sanxiu." After voicing out her thoughts, Tian Sour finally relaxed. She pouted and said, "Sister Sour is your girlfriend, right? Why can't you bring me along? You guys are so secretive every day. I don't know if you guys are cultivating or doing something else." You want to go too? Are you sure?" Xiaoqun's eyes widened in disbelief. "I'm sure." Tian Sour nodded firmly. "Since Sister Sour isn't going to marry that Jia Huoyin, then I'll definitely follow you. Sister Sour has decided, starting today." Xiaoqun saw that Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue were looking at him with a faint smile. They didn't object, so he shook his head helplessly. "All right then, let's go. Don't regret it later." "Sister Sour has seen everything. Who are you trying to scare?" Tian Sour gathered her courage for a long time. Of course she wouldn't back down now. She puffed out her chest and swaggered out behind Xiaoqun. Cheng Minjing and Ling Qianxue looked at each other. They didn't know whether to laugh or to be angry. Su Chuxia and Jia Muzhen were left standing in place, stunned. When they reached the room next door, Xiaoqun and Cheng Minjing went to shower separately. As there were only 2 washrooms in this house, the other 2 could only wait. Tian Sour quickly took the opportunity to chat with Ling Qianxue in a low voice. "Qianxue, Sister Sour has something to ask you." Although Tian Sour looked like she didn't care, when she thought about doing it with Xiaoqun, she immediately felt a little scared and guilty. "What's wrong?" Ling Qianxue asked. When a girl does it for the first time with a guy, does it hurt?" Tian Sour blushed and asked shyly. Tian Soran originally planned to ask Cheng Minjing, but considering that Cheng Minjing was his official fiancé, she might explode if she asked inappropriately. Plus, she knew that she had never said anything nice to Cheng Minjing before, so Cheng Minjing definitely didn't like her very much. Thus, she didn't dare to casually ask and could only ask Ling Qianxue these private questions. Chapter 966. I'm not sure either. Ling Qianxue blushed with shame and answered after a long while. She really didn't know. Her first time was gone when she was drunk. Now that she recalled it, she couldn't even remember the whole process. How could she feel pain? You don't know either? Didn't you do it with Xiaoqun? Tian Souring was puzzled. Then, she seemed to understand something. She slapped her thigh and said, "Sister Souring understands. It wasn't your first time, so you can't remember." "No, didn't I tell you before? I was drunk at the time, so I didn't feel anything. But, when I woke up the next day, I did feel a little pain." Ling Qianxue's cheeks turned red as she quickly explained. "All right, I forgot." Tian Souring suddenly remembered something. "Also, I heard that if you don't wear a condom, it's very easy to get pregnant. But why didn't I see it in the room?" Looking around, Tian Souring decided to take action. She opened the drawer of the bedside table and searched everywhere, but she couldn't find the small box. She couldn't help but be surprised. Don't worry. Xiaoqun isn't a scumbag in society. He knows what he's doing." Looking at Tian Souring's nervous face, Ling Qianxue smiled helplessly. This little girl was fearless and shamelessly followed her. She didn't expect that it was all an act. What? Did he do it on your mouth? No. Sister Souring can't do it. Tian Souring's imagination went wild. Thinking of this, she immediately shook her head like a rattled drum. Looking at Ling Qianxue's sexy lips, Tian Souring sighed in her heart. As expected of a girl from Japan, she can actually accept such a big thing. In the past, when she was bored, she would secretly watch some action movies. She always felt that there were some things that would only appear in movies, and she definitely wouldn't do it. She didn't expect to encounter it herself. She couldn't help but panic. What do you mean? Ling Qianxue was stunned. Seeing Tian Souring staring at her lips, she immediately reacted. She lightly punched her in embarrassment and said with a red face, "It's not what you think. He is. What are you guys talking about? What do you mean by this and that?" Just when Ling Qianxue was about to explain, Xiaoqun had already finished showering and walked over in his bathrobe. He happened to overhear the conversation and asked with a puzzled expression. "Nothing. I'm going to take a bath first." Tian Suruan hurriedly gave Ling Qianxue a look, signaling her not to say more. He then waved his hand, picked up a change of clothes, and hurriedly ran to the bathroom. This little girl, she's always so mysterious. Seeing how flustered Tian Suruan was, Xiaoqun turned to Ling Qianxue and asked, "What did she say to you? It's all about girls, you won't be interested." "That, is Menjing done?" Ling Qianxue blushed and quickly changed the topic. Xiaoqun didn't care too much. He nodded and said, "Well, she's fine now. You should go and wash up too." Okay. Ling Qianxue also stood up and took her underwear and panties to the other bathroom. After showering, Tian Suruan walked into the largest room with a towel wrapped around her. She found that the others hadn't arrived yet and the room was empty. Looking at the huge bed in front of her, Tian Suruan's expression kept changing. After hesitating for a while, she clenched her teeth and lay straight on the bed. She closed her eyes tightly and waited anxiously. Just like other girls, she had fantasized countless times about who she would be with for the first time. Was he handsome? Was he a rich second generation? During the process, would he be gentle and considerate to her? Would it feel wonderful? In short, as long as it was a normal first experience, Tian Suruan had considered all the questions that girls could think of, even some that normal girls couldn't think of. For example, was the other party's technique good? What if she was asked to use a strange position? And so on and so forth. She had also thought of some of the more bizarre questions. She had purposely looked for short movies to watch and studied the tricks involved in it. This was so that she could understand the entire process in advance so that she could be mentally prepared when the time came. However, when Tian Suruan found out that she was just a tool for her family's marriage alliance and that she would end up marrying a guy with a stupid appearance and an extremely twisted heart, all of her previous fantasies were shattered like soap bubbles. She couldn't bear such a terrifying future. When she thought of sharing a bed with a perverted man and spending the rest of her life with him, she would immediately break down. Therefore, Tian Suruan chose to escape from her family and hide in Lan City. She and Su Chusha became best friends who talked about everything. However, when she met Xiao Qin, who was pretending to be Xiao Chang, and was confessed to by him, her cold heart, which was originally closed to the feelings between men and women, gradually rippled. She felt that life had suddenly become colorful and had a hint of meaning. In the past, Tian Suruan had an urge to give her virginity to Xiao Chang. However, every time she mustered up her courage, she was afraid that she would implicate Xiao Chang because of the Jia family. Therefore, after struggling for a while, she gave up on this idea. It was only when she was in danger and Xiao Qin saved her in the nick of time that Tian Suruan completely opened her heart. The feelings that she had accumulated for a long time poured out like a flood. She secretly made a decision in her heart that no matter what happened in the future, she would follow Xiao Chen without hesitation. She would let him be her sustenance for the rest of her life. Therefore, she chose to give her body to Xiao Chen and wanted to occupy a place by his side. Suruan, why are you lying on the bed alone in a daze? At this moment, Xiao Chen walked in from the living room. Qing Minjing and Ling Qianxue followed behind him. No, nothing. When Tian Suruan heard Xiao Chen's voice, her heart beat like a drum. She didn't dare to open her eyes. Xiao Chen looked at Tian Suruan's nervous look and felt it was a little funny. He turned off the light in the room and said, "Sit up. We are going to start cultivating." Okay. Tian Suruan opened her eyes subconsciously and realized that the room was dark. She immediately became even more nervous. She didn't know why Xiao Chen wanted to sit up by himself. Could it be that he wanted to do some foreplay first? Yes, it should be like this. Wasn't that how it was in those short movies? The male and female leads would first play some tricks and gradually arouse the other party's emotions. Finally, they would enter the main theme. This way the girl wouldn't be too resistant. It seemed that this was what Xiaoqin wanted to do. As the room was dark, Tian Suruan couldn't see the movements of Xiaoqin and the others. She only felt the bed suddenly sink. It seemed that a few people had sat on it and were close to her. She quickly sat up and her breathing became a little heavy. Chapter 967. Come on, don't be nervous. Put your left hand and my right hand together, and your right hand in Chenshua's left hand. Xiaoqin could see everything clearly in the dark. He held Tian Shaoring's hand and guided her unhurriedly. Tian Shaoring followed Xiaoqin's movements in a daze. At the same time, she felt a little inexplicable. What is this guy doing? How can foreplay be like this? It's different from those short movies. Shouldn't it be mutual caressing or kissing? Could it be that this is the difference between double cultivation and fourth cultivation? Because there are 4 people here, so I have to arouse everyone's emotions? That's right. Otherwise it would be a little awkward for the other 2 to watch. Tian Shaoring thought she understood the reason. After waiting for a while, she realized that Xiaoqin only let her and Ling Chenshua's hand touch each other, and the other hand was held by him. Then he didn't do anything else. Tian Shaoring was completely confused at this time. What is this situation? Why isn't Xiaoqin following the routine? Does he want to do it with me or not? Okay, you can start to practice your mental cultivation now. Eliminate all distracting thoughts. Don't let your imagination run wild. After putting the 4 people's hands together, Xiaoqin instructed Tian Shaoring. The other 2 girls were already very familiar with it. There was no need to give any more pointers. Why do you want Sister Shaoring to practice her mental cultivation? What are you trying to do? Tian Shaoring couldn't help but ask in confusion. This doesn't make sense. Tian Shaoring was a little depressed. Could it be that Xiaoqin and the others were really just practicing and didn't do anything else? We want fourth cultivation. Didn't I say it before? Xiaoqin replied with an innocent face. What do you think? This, I didn't think much of it. I just want to recall the content of the mental cultivation. Tian Shaoring stopped in time and changed her words perfunctorily. She clearly didn't have any intention of doing that, so how could he rush over and say that he wanted to do that? Tian Shaoring didn't say anything on the surface, but she was still a little disappointed in her heart. She naively thought that when men and women stripped naked to practice martial arts, it must be done through that. Wasn't that how it was written in those martial arts novels? He didn't expect it to be completely different from what he had imagined. However, her mental cultivation base had been neglected for several years. Originally, she was only a martial artist with level 1 inner force. The head of the family thought that she would be married off sooner or later, so it was useless to cultivate. Therefore, he did not emphasize on her cultivation. After that, Tian Suruan ran away from home and never returned. After so many years, she had almost forgotten the mantra. Xiaoqin didn't rush her. Instead, he and Qing Menjing and Ling Chenxue immersed themselves in cultivation first. Tian Wangshuo thought for a long time and finally remembered something. She immediately activated her mental cultivation method, got rid of all distracting thoughts, and began to cultivate with Xiaoqin and the others. The night passed quickly. The next morning, when Tian Suruan stopped cultivating, she was surprised to find that she had already reached the peak of stage 6 inner force. Although compared to Xiaoqin and the others, this strength was really nothing, but it still made her happy for a long time. The disappointment of not being able to do that with Xiaoqin also disappeared. Anyway, as long as she stayed by Xiaoqin's side, she would be able to push him down one day. On the contrary, Qing Minjing and Ling Chenxue were still stuck at the ascension stage and did not make any progress. Instead, it was Xiaoqin who welcomed the breakthrough that he hadn't had for a long time. From Golden Core stage level 9, he directly soared to level 10 full cycle. This made Xiaoqin very excited. He thought to himself, could it be that the more people who cultivate, the faster I can level up? If he could find a few other girls to cultivate with him, then wouldn't he be able to smoothly break through to the nascent soul stage in one go? In his excitement, Xiaoqin pulled Tian Suruan over naked and gave her a big hug. Only then did he realize what he had done. Afraid that the other 2 girls would be jealous, he immediately rolled off the bed and slipped into the bathroom to put on his clothes, leaving Tian Suruan sitting there in a daze. Mu Sun, when will Jia Huoyan's men come? I'm getting impatient waiting. Why don't you call back and urge him? Ask them to come quickly? This young master's schedule is very full, I don't have time to wait for them. When everyone gathered in Su Chusha's house to eat breakfast, Xiaochen drank his porridge in high spirits, crossed his legs and asked leisurely. His current strength was equivalent to a half-step demon venerable. As long as he found time to slightly consolidate his cultivation, he would reach the first level of demon venerable sooner or later. Therefore, even if he had to directly face the experts of full cycle or venerable in the inner martial arts world, Xiaochen was not anxious. In fact, his hands were a little itchy and he could not wait to meet them so he could test his current strength. Can't be, can you really defeat an expert of the 10th level Demon King realm? Jianghu was instantly speechless. 2 days ago he thought that Xiaochen had set an ambitious goal. After not seeing him for a night he actually became so confident? Could it be that some kind of miracle happened? What is the 10th level Demon King realm? Even if that first level martial venerable comes, I will still beat him to death. If he doesn't come, we will immediately make a move and go to the Jiao family to meet them, Xiaochen said proudly. After all, his strength was there. Even if the other party had a divine weapon, so what? As long as they dared to come, he would still beat them until they couldn't take care of themselves. TSK, isn't it just a level up? Look at you, your tail is already in the sky. When the time comes, if we really meet a venerable level expert, I want to see what you will do. Cheng Menjing couldn't stand Xiaochen's smug look the most. She glared at him and said impatiently. She felt that Xiaochen was a little too arrogant. If the other party could have a first-level martial venerable, wouldn't they have a second or third-level expert? It seemed like Xiaochen had already tossed the experience of being beaten up by Ma Baixia and fleeing like a stray dog to the back of his mind. He really didn't learn from his mistakes. Once the scar healed, he forgot about the pain. Expert? Where is there an expert? Hurry up and ask him to come find me. I haven't killed anyone for a few days and my hands are itching. Xiaochen laughed. Boom. Before Cheng Menjing had time to refute, they heard a sudden loud sound coming from the direction of the door. Everyone was instantly shocked. When they looked back, they saw a cloud of smoke rising. The steel door that had just been installed had been blown to pieces again. A figure rushed in quickly. It can't be, speak of the devil and he will come? Xiaochen put down his bowl. Although he looked a little surprised, he didn't show any signs of fear. Waiya. Little servant Xiaochen, let's see where you can run to this time. Everyone here will be buried with my son. The person shouted and directly rushed over. Chapter 968. However, to Xiaochen's surprise, the person who rushed out was not Jia Huoyan's subordinate, but Ma Peizha, whom he hadn't seen for a long time. Ma Peizha went back and went into closed-door training for half a year before he recovered the strength of Demon King level 10 Great Perfection. He had just come out of closed-door training not long ago. As soon as he came out, he received a letter from Chick Xing and learned of Xiaochen's whereabouts, so he immediately rushed to the place described in the letter. Seeing Xiaochen and his group eating breakfast, looking very carefree and happy, Ma Peizha couldn't help but get angry. He only recovered his strength after suffering for half a year. Now that he met his enemy, his eyes were exceptionally red. He couldn't wait to tear Xiaochen into pieces. Ma Peizha walked in front of everyone arrogantly, only to find that Cheng Menjing was also there. He couldn't help but laugh a few times and said, "Very good. Since you two bitches are here, I'll deal with you all together today. It also saves me a lot of effort." "Yeah, you're finally here? That's great. Finally, there's someone to practice with." Xiaochen was very happy when he saw Ma Peizha came. Although he didn't know how Ma Peizha found this place, it didn't matter. He was worried that there was no one to practice with. Looking at Xiaochen's eager look, Ma Peizha was taken aback and said with a strange face, "Are you tired of living? You're actually looking forward to me coming. Could it be that you were beaten silly by me before? Is there something wrong with your brain?" "Of course not. I promised everyone before that I would perform Flying Centipede for them to see. I was worried that I didn't have a place to find you. I didn't expect that you, Centipede, would come to me. Of course I'm happy." Xiaochen explained seriously. "You." Before Ma Peizha could figure out Xiaochen's intention, he saw him shouting loudly, "Come, come, come. Everyone stand at that place. I'm going to show you how to fly like a snake." As he spoke, Xiaochen gave Cheng Menjing and Ling Qianxue a look. The two of them understood and brought Jia Muzhen, Su Chuxia and Tian Suruan to the side. In a low voice, they told the three of them what had happened. Seeing that Xiaochen was being serious, Ma Wuxiao trembled with anger. Clenching his teeth, he said fiercely, "Well done, Xiaochen. It looks like your brain has been knocked out of your mind. How could you say something so stupid? You're still so stubborn even at death's door. Let's see how you beg for mercy later. Xiao Qin relaxed when he saw that everyone was in a safe area and wouldn't be affected by the aftershocks. He rolled up his sleeves and said calmly, "Let's not talk about those useless things. It wasn't easy for you to recover your strength, so this young master will be magnanimous and give you the chance to make the first move. Don't wait until the centipede flies away and doesn't even have a chance to make a move before it dies." After that, Xiao Qin smiled and waved at Ma Wuxiao, indicating that he could attack at any time. "Shameless brat, full of nonsense. You can go die now." Ma Minky was already enraged. He snorted coldly and immediately circulated his mental cultivation method, displaying the strength of a Demon King level 10 perfection stage Demon King. He flew toward Xiao Qin and raised his hand to unleash a killing move. Bam! Xiao Qin didn't dodge. He raised his hand and met Ma Wuxiao's palm. The next moment, the two powerful forces collided with a loud bang. Everyone who was standing further away felt like they were about to fall and hurried to circulate their qi to resist. Cheng Menjing stood in front of Su Chuxiao in time, blocking the strong aftershocks for her. How is this possible? You're also a level 10 Demon King? Ma Wuxiao was pushed back a few steps by the aftershocks and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was full of horror. He clutched his chest and stared at Xiao Qin in disbelief. "It's too late for you to know. Go to hell." Xiao Qin was unscathed. There was a cold smile on his lips. Before Ma Wuxiao could regain his balance, Xiao Qin rushed over and kicked his lower abdomen. Ma Baixia was already heavily injured. Caught off guard, he was sent flying by Xiao Qin's kick, drawing an arc in the air and accurately flying out of the window, falling straight down to the ground floor of the first floor. Ma Wuxiao, who had no time to mobilize the demon qi in his body, could only watch as he got closer and closer to the ground. He roared in terror, "Ah! This is impossible. How could this be?" Bam! Ma Wuxiao landed heavily on the ground, creating a large pit. His expression was still full of disbelief and fear. His eyes were wide open as if he had died with a grievance. No matter how he thought about it, he could not understand how Xiao Qian's strength had become even higher than his in just half a year. Ah! Someone is jumping off the building. Help! What the F***CK? This is 2F** King scary. I heard that a lot of people's stocks have plummeted recently. They lost so much that they jumped off the building. This guy must have lost a lot. Where are the security guards? Call 110 and 120. Property management, come quickly. There was a scream from downstairs, followed by the crowd's discussion. They were probably residents who woke up early to buy groceries. They witnessed a suicide incident early in the morning. After a while, the police car and ambulance arrived. Since everyone agreed that Ma Daobao must be a shareholder who lost money, and he was a stranger, and he did not have any documents to prove his identity, the police could not investigate. In order to calm the residents, they asked the hospital staff to take the body away. Chick Xing, who was far away, had a shocked expression on her face. She stood still for a long time. After learning that Ma Wuxiao came out of the mountain, Chick Xing had been following him. When he went to take revenge on Xiao Qian, she hid in the distance and watched. She was ready to help when Xiao Qian was defeated. However, as she watched, Chick Xing found that Xiao Qian and Ma Wuxiao were evenly matched. She couldn't help but be surprised. Before little Miss Xing could react, Ma Baixia had already been sent flying out of the window. He fell straight to the ground dead. This scene made Chick Xing dizzy. Xiao Qian is already at the perfect stage of the Demon King level 10? What the hell is going on? Isn't he only at the 7th stage of the Demon King? A cold wind blew and Chick Xing shivered subconsciously. Only then did she come back to her senses. She quickly left Jingji district and ran back to report the situation. She felt that Xiao Qian's existence was too dangerous. This strange leveling speed couldn't be described by normal people. If he wasn't eliminated as soon as possible, he would pose a threat to Qi Tianmen sooner or later. TSK, this flying Ma Wuxiao doesn't look interesting. It's not fun at all. Xiao Qian dusted off his clothes and looked downstairs in disgust. Xiao Qian, are you okay? Are you hurt? Qing Minjing and Ling Qianxue quickly ran over and looked him up and down. Tian Suruan also stood next to him nervously. Chapter 969. I'm fine. I'm fine. Xiao Qian shrugged and turned to Jiao Muzin, who had his mouth wide open in shock. Forget it, I'm too lazy to wait. Let's just go to your house and beat Jiao Huiyan up. I'll make you the young master so I can go to the Tianyu mine to find my father. Jianghu hadn't woken up from the scene just now. He stuttered and couldn't even speak clearly. What? Don't you believe that I can help you? Xiao Qin joked with a smile. I believe you. Of course I believe you. Jianghu nodded quickly and looked at Xiao Qin with a sincere expression. In that case, let's go as soon as possible. Jianghu estimated that the date of the foreign aid competition was approaching. Since he had Xiao Qin's help, it was like adding wings to a tiger. He also wanted to return to the Jia family as soon as possible to make preparations. Suddenly, a weak female voice was heard. Su Chuxia stood there with an uneasy expression. Chuxia, the internal martial arts world is too dangerous. Don't go. Just study at Lan University and wait for Sister Sour to come back. At that time, Sister Sour will definitely get rid of that disgusting Jia Huoyan and come to find you with ease. Tian Sour knew that Su Chuxia was too weak to go to the internal martial arts world with them, so he immediately ran over and hugged her arm. Okay, I'll wait for you guys to come back. Su Chuxia also knew that if she went with them, she would only be a burden to others, so she nodded and agreed. Okay, then let's go back to school first and take a long vacation. Jianghu said with a smile. After all, after going to the internal martial arts world, we don't know when we can come back. It's okay not to go to class for a few days, but if there's no news for a few months, we will definitely be expelled. Everyone felt that it made sense, so they nodded and agreed. Before we go, let's clean up the room first. Xiao Qin walked to the door and looked at the broken iron door. He felt a little heartache and muttered, "Sigh, I just spent money to install a new iron door a few days ago. I didn't expect it to be broken again so soon. I shouldn't have killed Ma Baijiao just now. It would have been better if he had paid for the iron door first. Isn't it just installing an iron door? It won't cost you much money. When did you become as greedy as a miser?" Cheng Minjing rolled her eyes at Xiao Qin and reprimanded him. Now that Ma Wuxiao was dead, Xiao Qin could withdraw the money in the bank without worry. Not to mention installing an iron gate, he could even buy the whole building. However, it seemed like half of this building was already sour. Sigh, Sister Sour really got shot while lying down. Tian Sour sighed gloomily. She didn't dare to argue with Cheng Minjing, the legal wife. After muttering to herself, she lowered her head and started to clean up the room quietly. Since the iron door was broken, and they were in a hurry, Su Chuxia could only ask the property management to help fix it. Fortunately, it could still be locked. After everything was done, she felt at ease and followed the others to take a taxi to school. Initially, the school did not agree to their request for leave. After all, they could not explain the specific reason. Furthermore, there were too many people and the period was a little too long. However, after Xiao Qin called Xia Zhili and told him about the matter, it did not take long before the school teacher, who had a sour expression on his face, completed all their procedures with a smile. The few of them discussed for a while and decided to go back to their dormitories to pack their luggage. Then they would meet at the school cafeteria and leave after eating. Cheng Minjing asked for Xiao Qin's opinion. She planned to treat Ling Qinyu to a meal as well. Although they had not lived together for a long time, they still had a bit of a roommate bond. Qinyu usually took good care of her. Now that she was leaving, she had to at least tell Ling Qinyu before she left. When they walked into the dormitory, Cheng Minjing saw Ling Qinyu watching TV in the outer room. She said, "Senior Qinyu, are you free this afternoon? My boyfriend and I will probably be away for a few months, so I want to treat you to a farewell meal." "Who are you? Why do you have the key to my dormitory?" Ling Qinyu thought it was Qing Yaoyao. When she turned around, she realized it was a beautiful girl she didn't know at all. She was stunned and asked cautiously. Ling Qinyu felt that this girl's voice was similar to Qing Yaoyao's, but she had never seen her face before. Did she go to Korea for plastic surgery? "I'm Qing Yaoyao. Or you can call me Qing Minjing. That's my real name." Qing Minjing suddenly remembered that she hadn't disguised herself since she recovered her face. No wonder so many students stared at her on the way back. "It's you? Why is your face?" Ling Qinyu quickly stood up and stared at Cheng Minjing's face in confusion. Cheng Minjing had no choice but to give a simple explanation, because of some special reasons. "I disguised my face before, and now this is my true appearance." "I see. But you look much better than before. Your boyfriend is so lucky to have such a beautiful girlfriend like you." "Alright. Why are you guys leaving so suddenly?" Ling Qinyu nodded and asked as she watched Cheng Minjing pack her luggage. Senior Qinyu, you're beautiful too. But the reason is a little complicated. Let's go to the cafeteria first. I can't express myself clearly in such a short amount of time." Cheng Minjing finished packing, held Ling Qinyu's hand and left the dorm for the cafeteria. Ling Qinyu tilted her head and looked at Cheng Minjing carefully. She felt that Cheng Minjing's skin was fair and she was beautiful. She didn't look any worse than her, and she had the outstanding temperament of a lady from a wealthy family. Why would a girl like this fall for a loser with average looks like Xiao Yi? However, Ling Qinyu felt that Xiao Yi might also be in disguise. Maybe he's also quite handsome, and that's why he took Ling Qinyu as his girlfriend. These people might all have their own stories. Coming to Lan City University might just be a small interlude in their lives, and that's why they had to leave now. Thinking of this, Ling Qinyu felt a little disappointed. She had just gotten used to having Cheng Minjing as her best friend. She didn't expect her to leave so soon. From now on she would have to live alone again. Facing an empty dorm all day, her days would be extremely boring. As expected, when Cheng Minjing and Ling Qinyu appeared on campus hand in hand, they immediately attracted a large group of male students. Ling Qinyu was already a well-known campus belle, and now there was another campus belle-level girl standing next to her. And their looks weren't inferior at all. Chapter 970. Everyone was trying to guess Cheng Minjing's identity. Some people even took out their phones to secretly take pictures. However, the two of them seemed to be very used to it. They calmly arrived at the cafeteria. In the cafeteria, Xiao Qin had already opened a private room and was waiting. After Ling Qinyu entered, she immediately froze on the spot with a face full of astonishment. Ling Qinyu saw two familiar faces sitting there leisurely, looking at her with a smile. "Hi, senior sister Qinyu, we meet again. Long time no see." Xiao Qin waved his hand and warmly greeted Ling Qinyu. "Hello, Qinyu." Ling Qinshue faintly smiled and greeted back. She had a lot of words in her heart, but she didn't know how to say them. "Oh, hello." Ling Qinyu's smile was a bit forced. Although she knew that Ling Qinshue was her biological sister, she still couldn't accept this fact. She could only choose to temporarily avoid the other's gaze. She turned her head to look at Xiao Chen and said uncertainly, "You are Xiao Yi?" "Bingo. You guessed correctly. 10 points. Xiao Chen snapped his fingers and happily nodded. "Then why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you lie to me with Cheng Minjing?" Ling Qinyu blurted out, but her tone carried a sense of blame that she didn't even notice. Previously she thought that Xiao Yi was too ordinary and didn't match Cheng Minjing at all. However, after knowing the truth, Ling Qinyu felt a bit resentful towards Xiao Chen. This guy, why did he lie to her? I also have my own difficulties. Back then I was being chased by my enemies, so I took Cheng Minjing to hide. Xiao Chen was also a bit embarrassed and helplessly described his recent experience in detail. "Do you not trust me? Do you think that after telling me the truth, you will bring trouble to yourself?" Ling Qinyu asked a bit angrily. Thinking about how she was kept in the dark for so long, she couldn't help but feel angry. Seeing Xiao Chen, who she hadn't seen for a long time, Ling Qinyu had a strange feeling in her heart. After Xiao Chen left, she had been looking for her grandfather Ling Tian to ask about Xiao Chen's whereabouts. However, she never received a direct answer. Every time the answer was that Xiao Chen was on a mission. Ling Qinyu once asked herself if she had fallen in love with Xiao Chen, but it didn't seem like it. She had an unclear feeling towards Xiao Chen. Because Xiao Chen was the only bodyguard that she could get along with him. Although the two would bicker from time, Ling Qinyu still felt that Xiao Chen was like a big brother. Xiao Chen was her. That Xiao Chen was too. Previously, Ling Qinyu had been thinking of asking her grandfather to transfer Xiao Chen back to her side. However, her wish wasn't fulfilled. At this moment she finally understood that Xiao Chen had always been by her side. However, when she found out about this, he was about to leave again. At this moment, Ling Qinyu's heart was filled with a myriad of emotions. For a moment she couldn't tell what she was feeling. She stood there in a daze. "You're thinking too much. I didn't want to implicate you. That's why I chose not to say it. At that time the other party was too strong. I couldn't even protect Minjing. If those people found out about our relationship and used you to threaten me, it would be even more troublesome." Xiao Chen knew that Ling Qinyu was unhappy and explained patiently. "Really? Then why did you hook up with her? You should know that she wanted to harm me." Ling Qinyu came back to her senses. She was a little angry. She pointed at Ling Qinshue and asked suspiciously. Ling Qinyu still didn't trust Ling Qinshue at all. Although they were blood-related sisters, Ling Qinyu felt that there was no reason for an older sister to help someone kidnap her own younger sister. If it wasn't for Xiao Chen's timely discovery, she would have become their prisoner. Moreover, in order to obtain benefits, they might even do some heinous things to him. Qinyu, actually, I've always wanted to apologize to you. However, I never found the opportunity. I hope you can understand my... Ever since Ling Qianxue saw Ling Qinyu, she had a guilty expression. However, before she could finish, Ling Qinyu interrupted her. Forget it. In front of so many people, don't even think about pretending to be a good person. Keep your act to yourself, I won't buy it from you. How do I know that you won't harm me in the future? Ling Qinyu snorted coldly and glared at Ling Qianxue. Qinyu, your words are a little too much. No matter what, Qianxue is your blood-related older sister. Now that she's sincerely apologizing to you, can't you let her finish speaking? Xiao Qin frowned and reprimanded in a low voice. He knew Ling Qinyu's spoiled and unreasonable temper. However, it also depended on the situation. She couldn't be too unreasonable, right? You think you can just because she says so? Ling Qinyu muttered. She knew that she couldn't win against Xiao Chen in an argument. She pouted angrily and turned her head away. When the others saw that the atmosphere was a little tense, they couldn't help but look at each other. They didn't dare to open their mouths to smooth things over. After all, they didn't know the truth of the matter. Only Cheng Minjing pulled Ling Qinyu's arm and persuaded her in a low voice. Ling Qianxue looked at Xiao Qin gratefully. She took a deep breath and adjusted her emotions before saying, Qinyu, I don't know if Grandpa told you that I was sent to the sect to cultivate since I was young, but I was switched halfway through? Yes, he did, but that doesn't prove that you're my biological sister. After being comforted by Cheng Minjing for a while, Ling Qinyu's mood improved slightly. Her expression relaxed, but she still didn't trust Ling Qianxue. She replied stiffly. This matter was done by the Sakura group. In order to let the Sakura group infiltrate the martial arts sects and hide in the martial arts world, they secretly switched me with another Japanese girl. Ling Qianxue explained the matter as concisely as possible. Swapping a raccoon for a prince. This is the first time Sister Sour Sour has seen this in real life. Tian Sour Sour exclaimed and was pulled back by Su Chuxia. Yes, so my surname should be Ling, but I still don't know my real name. Ling Qianxue nodded and said lightly. Oh, then why are you called Ling Qianxue? Did idiot Yorishima change your name? Xiao Qin asked doubtfully. Although he had been with Ling Qianxue for a long time, Xiao Qin had never heard her talk about her background. This was the first time he had heard about it. No, after I was taken away by Yorishima, I was fostered in the family of a researcher who worked for the Sakura group. That family had a daughter who was a few days younger than me. After I became sensible, I always thought that she was my biological sister. Ling Qianxue shook her head and said. Chapter 971. What does this have to do with your name, Ling Qianxue? Although Ling Qinyu turned her head away, she still couldn't help but ask. It looked like she was talking to the air. Actually, my sister's name is Ling Qianxue. Ling Qianxue replied helplessly. Seeing that everyone was confused, she had no choice but to continue explaining. When we lived together, according to the rules, one of us had to become a member of the organization. However, the Sakura group wanted a younger sister who was 1 year younger than me, who didn't know anything yet. So you replaced her? Xiao Qin keenly caught the key point. Yes, I heard that the training in the Sakura group is very hard and cruel. I was afraid that my sister would suffer, so I disguised myself as my sister, took her identity and joined the Sakura group, becoming Ling Qianxue. Ling Qianxue nodded. However, when she recalled that Yorishima Kikuo had told her that the organization already knew that she had replaced her sister, Ling Qianxue secretly thought that she was still too inexperienced. Xiao Qin was almost confused. After sorting out his thoughts, he asked, So, I met a Ling Qianxue at the New Moon Academy before. Who is that? Could it be your biological sister? No, it's your sister from Japan? Xiao Qin glanced at Ling Qinyu, who was pouting and staring at the air. His sister was standing right there. Should be. Although I joined the Sakura group for her, I don't know how Yorishima Kikuo persuaded her to join the organization. He even sent her to Xia Kingdom to carry out a secret mission. However, I'm not too sure about the specifics of the mission. Ling Qianxue's expression was a little bitter, as if she felt helpless about wasting her efforts. Then, the girl who swapped with you back then, which sect did she go to? What's her name? Xiao Qin asked. I'm not too sure about that. Yorishima is big. Yorishima Kikuo said that it was arranged by the leader of the Sakura group. Even with his authority, he couldn't investigate it. He only told me about my past because he wanted me to go on a mission. Ling Qianxue smiled bitterly. Although Ling Qianxue remained loyal to the Sakura group after she found out about her past from Yorishima Kikuo, she still secretly looked up some information to find out the details of her being switched. Unfortunately, she could only find some minor clues and was unable to access the core confidential documents. After talking for so long, you still don't have any evidence to prove your identity. I'm afraid that's not very convincing, is it? Ling Qinyu finally turned her head back and said with a frown. Qinyu, if you don't believe me, we can do a DNA test. You'll understand then. Ling Qianxue was not surprised by Ling Qinyu's question. The only thing that could prove her identity was the blood of the Ling family flowing in her body. This. Ling Qinyu was stunned. She recalled that her grandfather had also mentioned the results of Ling Qianxue's DNA test, but she still couldn't accept this fact. She always suspected that it was the Sakura group's doing. That kidnapping had left a huge shadow in her heart. Ling Qinyu couldn't believe that her own sister would help outsiders harm her. Even though she felt Ling Qianxue's kindness, she still couldn't accept it. Ling Qinyu, don't be so stubborn. How good is it to have such a powerful sister? You don't have to be afraid of being bullied when you have someone to go shopping with. She can even take you to Japan to eat barbecue and sashimi. Sister Sour is so jealous of you. Just as the atmosphere in the private room became a little awkward, Tian Sour suddenly spoke up. Sour, don't talk nonsense. They're talking about serious matters. Su Chuxia quickly pulled Tian Sour away. She had a headache dealing with this unrestrained little sister of hers. But Sister Sour's stomach is about to collapse from hunger. What if they talk for another half an hour and we don't have anything to eat? What if Sister Sour's proud chest shrinks by a cup? Tian Sour pouted and complained. Ha ha ha. Tian Sour's words caused everyone to roar with laughter. The originally heavy atmosphere in the private room instantly eased up. You. Su Chuxia was angry and amused at the same time. She looked at Tian Sour, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She didn't know what to say. Alright, let's stop talking about this. If you don't believe what Qianxue said, go and confirm it with Chief Ling later. Let's eat first. Xiao Qin pulled Ling Qinyu to her seat and stood up to call the waiter, indicating that the dishes could be served. Ling Qinyu was still a little conflicted, but she knew that this was not the time to pursue this matter. She sat down reluctantly. Everyone relaxed and chatted happily. While waiting for the waiter to serve the dishes, Xiao Qin leaned back in his chair. Seeing that Ling Qinyu was still unhappy, he comforted her. Don't be so depressed. After this meal, we don't know when we'll be able to see each other again. It's more important to finish this farewell feast happily. How long will you be gone this time? When will you come back to class? Ling Qinyu wanted to ask how long Xiao Chen would be gone for, but they were in public and Cheng Menjing, his real girlfriend, was also present. It was not appropriate for her to ask about it, so she could only say, you guys, instead. I don't know. If it's fast, it'll be a few months. If it's slow, it might be a few years. In fact, Xiao Chen was not sure either. After all, the main purpose of going to the Jia family of the Inner Wulin was to find out about his father's whereabouts. As for returning to Lan City University to continue his studies, he was not very interested. All right. Ling Qinyu was a little disappointed and did not ask any further. Although Ling Qinyu did not directly express her opinion, Cheng Menjing, who was sitting at the side, could keenly sense that her emotions were a little off. It seemed that she was not very satisfied with Xiao Chen's answer. Glancing at Xiao Chen, Cheng Menjing did not intend to expose him. She would just pretend that she did not see it. All right. Chuxia, why don't you move into Senior Qinyu's dormitory? Tian Suru clapped her hands and suddenly pulled Su Chuxia. Sister Suru is not by your side in the future. What if that ice cream smoker comes to harass you again? You can take care of each other if you live together. Tian Suru thought about how she was going to follow Xiao Chen to the Jia family. She was a little worried about the weak and shy Su Chuxia. After all, there were too many weird playboys in school. Without her protection, she might be abducted one day. Don't talk nonsense. Senior Qinyu is living well. How can I disturb her? Su Chuxia was a little embarrassed and waved her hand. Don't worry, I can take care of myself. After you go to the Jia family, don't make trouble for them, lest you cause trouble for Xiao Chen again. At this moment, Su Chuxia looked gentle and calm on the surface, but she was actually quite sad. After all, she had been with Tian Suru for so many years and had long become good sisters who could talk about anything. Chapter 972. Although Saori was usually carefree and would sometimes make jokes that made people not know whether to laugh or cry, Chusha still felt like something was missing when she was suddenly going to leave. It's okay, Chusha, you can move in. Menjing is leaving and it's too boring for me to live alone. I'll have company if you move in. Ling Qinyu said with a smile. Ling Qinyu had gradually gotten used to living with others, but the premise was that the person had a good character. She knew Chusha well, so she was more at ease moving in. Is that so? Alright, I'll have to trouble Senior Qinyu to take care of me from now on. Chusha hesitated for a moment and immediately agreed. Actually, she didn't like living alone. She was used to living with Tian Saori, so it was good to have someone to talk to at Ling Qinyu's place. You two are the old and new campus belles. Living together will definitely be a good story. Jianghu also laughed and chimed in. Xiaoqun remembered something and said, "Oh right, if Shuigao and Jing Shiding come to harass you in the future, remember to give Wang Jingtian a call and ask him to deal with it. I've already talked to him and I'll send you his phone number later." As they were chatting, there was a knock on the door of the private room. Then a waiter came in with the dishes. Wow, the dishes are here. That's great. Sister Saori's stomach is flat from hunger. Seeing the waiter put the dishes on the table, Tian Saori immediately cheered happily. Then she pointed at the waiter and said, Hey, put these 2 plates of meat in front of Sister Saori and the vegetable dish on the other side. And this fried chicken wing. Saori, there's a wheel on the table. Isn't it the same no matter where you put it? Also, everyone is hungry. Are you going to eat it all for yourself? Chusha gently poked Tian Saori's head and scolded in a low voice. Then let's eat together. Tian Saori knew she was in the wrong. She stuck out her tongue, picked up her chopsticks and quickly put a few pieces of meat into her bowl. Then she lowered her head and ate with big bites. The others looked at each other and smiled. They didn't mind. They were already used to Tian Saori's personality. They chatted as they ate, discussing which route they should take tomorrow. After eating and drinking to their heart's content, everyone said their goodbyes and went back to rest. Ling Qinyu returned to the dormitory and chatted with Cheng Menjing for a while. Seeing that she was tired, Ling Qinyu had no choice but to let her rest. She laid on the bed, tossing and turning, unable to fall asleep. For some reason, Ling Qinyu had an urge to keep Xiaoqun as her long-term bodyguard. However, during the meal just now, she found out that Xiaoqun was here to search for her father's whereabouts. She could only helplessly give up on this idea and only hope that Xiaoqun would be able to return safely. At that time, she would look for her grandfather Ling Tian to plead for Xiaoqun to be sent to her side. Looking at the dark night sky outside the window, Ling Qinyu sighed softly and closed her eyes. The next morning, Xiaoqun and the others arrived at the school gate and got into the Buick MPV that Xiaoyu had prepared for them. Chusha and Ling Qinyu came to send them off. As they were in a hurry, they did not say much and only said a few simple farewells. After that, Xiaoqun started the car and drove away from the school gate. Watching the Buick MPV leave, Chusha and Ling Qinyu could see the deep helplessness in each other's eyes. However, they did not say anything. They only sighed softly and held hands as they went back to the dormitory. Xiaoqun drove fast and steadily. Soon he got on the highway and drove in the direction of the Outer Wulin's Devil Star sect. He had only been to that place, so he was more familiar with the route. Jianghu, how do I get to the Inner Wulin from here? I have no idea, so I can only rely on you to navigate, Xiaoqun asked as he drove. Just drive in the direction of the Outer Wulin first. When we get there, I'll tell you how to get there. Jianghu scratched his head. Isn't there a specific location? Xiaoqun was a little confused. The specific location. Actually, I'm not too sure either. The Outer Wulin is in the old mountain forest, and the way to enter the Inner Wulin is quite special. I can't explain it clearly, Jianghu explained. Alright. Although Xiaoqun was curious about where the Inner Wulin was, he did not ask much. He raised his head and looked at the mountain not far away. He could not help but say to himself, we arrived at Greenstone Mountain so soon? I wonder how Jing Xinxiang is doing recently? Since we are passing by here, I might as well go and see him. Xiaoqun. Be careful in front. While Xiaoqun was thinking about something, Jianghu, who was sitting in the co-driver's seat, suddenly shouted nervously. What the F***ck? Xiaoqun suddenly came back to his senses. He saw a minibus in front of him suddenly slowed down without warning and was ready to stop by the roadside. Xiaoqun was suddenly shocked and quickly stepped on the brake heavily. However, it was still too late. Because of the inertia, the MPV directly hit the rear of the minibus. Cheng Minjing and Tian Suruan were scared and screamed. Bang! Only to hear a muffled sound, they saw that the rear of the minibus in front was directly dented, and it was almost knocked over. However, the Buick minibus driven by Xiaochen was just slightly shaken, and there was no damage at all. Only the front bumper's paint was scraped off. Xiaochen, what's wrong with you? You didn't even look when you were driving. What were you thinking? Fortunately, we were all wearing seat belts or else we would have flown out. Cheng Minjing was shocked and complained angrily. Sister Suruan was scared to death. Just now, Sister Suruan's mind was like a horse lantern. In an instant, she recalled everything from childhood to adulthood. I thought I was dead for sure this time. Tian Soran patted his chest with lingering fear. He thought to himself that it was a close shave. He was still a virgin. She didn't even push down Xiaochen, so how could she die so easily? Ling Qinxue, on the other hand, was silent. She knew that the minibus had been modified. Even if it hit the minibus at full speed, there would be no big problem. Moreover, Xiaochen had deliberately stepped on the brake. Having said that, even if the minibus was destroyed, the people in the minibus were all cultivators, and they all had the ability to resist. They certainly wouldn't suffer any serious injuries. At most, it would just be a few scratches. Don't blame Xiaochen. It's not his fault. It's because the minibus in front suddenly slowed down and changed lanes. It also didn't use the turn signal in advance. That's why it hit. This is a highway and this kind of behavior is purely courting death. I guess that the minibus was driven by a female driver. Jia Muzin analyzed logically, but when he mentioned the female driver, he suddenly got stuck. Chapter 973. Because he saw that as soon as the minibus door opened, a fat bald man jumped out and walked toward the Buick while cursing, "Hey! You bastard, are your eyes blind? How can you drive? How can you rear-end on such a wide road? Get the F***ck down here." Xiaochen felt that the voice sounded familiar. He looked at the person and couldn't help but laugh. Why is it this guy again? Does he want to make trouble again? Or is he going to make a bowl of knife-shaved noodles for me to taste? Little bastard son, he's pretty good at keeping his cool. I can't call you, right? Hurry up and get out or I'll tear your car into scrap iron in minutes. Do you believe me? Smiling Mithriya stared at the minibus and said fiercely. There was a big greasy bump on his head which was obviously caused by the collision just now. Because the Buick was covered with a thick layer of black film, Smiling Mithriya couldn't see the driver's appearance inside, so he didn't put Xiaochen in his eyes at all, nor did he notice that the minibus was undamaged. Oh, why are you looking for me? Xiaochen rolled down the window and looked at Smiling Mithriya coldly. He asked with a faint smile, "Are you itching for a beating again? Or do you know that we've been running for a day and are hungry, so you waited on the road to make knife-shaved noodles for us?" So, Xiaochen, aren't you being chased by Ma Minghua? How can you be here? Seeing that the person in the minibus was Xiaochen, Smiling Mithriya was suddenly dumbfounded and asked with a stutter, "What's going on? Didn't Ma Minghua release a martial arts hunting order? How dare Xiaochen show up in public? Isn't this naughty kid too bold? Is he scared out of his wits?" It turned out that Smiling Mithriya appeared here because he was also ready to go to the Green Rock sect. He heard that Xiaochen had been forced to become a stray dog and fled here and there. He was ecstatic. He remembered that he had lost face in the Green Rock sect at that time, so he was ready to take the opportunity to come back. He didn't expect that he would meet Xiaochen, the unlucky kid, before he could pretend. "Oh, you're talking about Horseshoe." He learned a new big move called Flying Serpent. He wanted to show it to me but he didn't perform well. He flew down from the 15th floor and fell to the ground. Xiaochen described it vividly, then shook his head and sighed, "Sigh, it's really sad. This story tells us that there's a risk in using the ultimate move, so we need to be cautious." "What did you say, he's dead?" The Smiling Mithriya finally understood what Xiaochen was talking about. He took a deep breath and his face twisted. Although the Smiling Mithriya did not know much about Ma Daobao's true strength, he was the sect leader of the Kuei Mountain sect after all. No matter what, he should have some ability, right? How did he die just like that? Could it be that Xiaochen's strength was higher than Ma Wuzhu's? Yes, he's dead. Xiaochen nodded and waved his hand impatiently. Alright, stop wasting time. Hurry up and go perform your knife-shaved noodles. Today there are many people on the bus, so make a few more bowls. Be careful not to cut yourself to death. But this is the wilderness and I don't have any noodles or cooking utensils. Where can I go to make knife-shaved noodles for you? The smiling Mithriya came back to his senses and said bitterly, "Aren't we going to the Green Rock faction soon?" Xiaoqun pointed to the mountain not far away and said, "You can go there and cook for us. Anyway, you're familiar with that place and I also want to visit it. It's very convenient." The smiling Mithriya was stunned. He subconsciously looked at the minibus and then at Green Rock Mountain. "Don't think about running away. I can catch up with you in minutes with my flying sword. Just park the car and hurry over. I'll be there soon. When I arrive, you have to make all the noodles, or I'll also let you perform a flying noodle show." Xiaoqun seemed to have seen through the smiling Mithriya's mind and said coldly. Just now he had used his divine sense to explore. There were many people on the minibus. Xiaoqun guessed that the smiling Mithriya must have brought so many people to cause trouble for the Green Rock faction, so he simply pushed the boat with the current and drove them to the mountain. If he followed them to the Green Rock faction, on the one hand he could see that they didn't do anything bad, and on the other hand he could quietly inquire about their purpose. Xiaoqun could sense that the smiling Mithriya was not here purely to show off his prowess. He seemed to be deliberately hiding something and did not say anything. Otherwise he could crush the Green Rock sect by himself. Why would he bring so many disciples here? Yes. The smiling Mithriya trembled, but he had no choice but to return to the minibus with a smile. First, he parked the minibus on the side of the road, and then walked in the direction of Green Rock Mountain with his men. As he walked, he was still wondering, how could a horse fall to death? Why would he perform a flying horse in the air? Is there something wrong with his brain? I really can't figure it out. Although the smiling Mithriya knew that he was not Xiaoqun's opponent, he was unwilling to be restrained. Taking advantage of the fact that Xiaoqun and his men had not caught up, he secretly contacted the superior sect behind the Joyful clan. This time, the smiling Mithriya came to the Green Rock faction with an ulterior motive. The superior sect of the Joyful clan had heard from somewhere that the Green Rock faction had found a treasure left by an ancient sect, which was full of high-quality spirit jades. Therefore, after he got the news, he was ready to rob it, but he did not expect to meet Xiaoqun the Jinx. "Hello Mithriya, how is it going? Did you get the spirit jades?" After the smiling Mithriya dialed the number, a cold voice came from the other end. "Leader Zhua, I encountered a little trouble. Today I just arrived at the Green Rock faction, and that Xiaoqun suddenly appeared. Now, I and my men are under his control, so it's not easy to take action." The smiling Mithriya reported helplessly. "Xiaoqun? Why is it him again? Isn't he being chased by Ma Wuxia? Why did he go to the Green Rock faction? Did Ma Wuxia chase after him?" Sect leader Zhuo was stunned and asked with a frown. "I'm not too sure about this. According to him, Ma Wuxia learned a big move called Flying Horse and then..." The smiling Mithriya did not dare to delay and quickly repeated Xiaoqun's words. "What did you say? Ma Wuxia fell to his death?" Sect leader Zhuo was stunned. He had heard that Ma Wuxia was a Demon King level 10 Great Perfection expert. How could he fall to his death? "Yeah, that's what Xiaoqun said, and I don't think he's lying." The smiling Mithriya nodded and asked with a sad face, "Sect leader Zhuo, what do you think we should do next? With Xiaoqun here, I'm afraid we can't take away those spirit jades. Maybe, even I will be left behind." Chapter 974. It's all thanks to your prescription that I've seen the results after drinking it twice. Now the old injuries in my body have healed and even my strength has recovered. I really don't know how to thank you." Gu Chongyi sighed. Xiaoqun and Jing Xinxiang chatted along the way. When they walked into the living room, they saw Gu Chongyi sitting on a chair, waiting. Originally, when Xiaoqun gave him the prescription, he thought that a young brat like this wouldn't have any medical skills. He was only holding on to the mentality of treating a dead horse as a living one. He didn't expect that it would miraculously work. Seeing that Xiaoqun had arrived, Gu Chongyi quickly stood up and greeted him. He said in a loud voice, "Young hero Xiao, you're finally here. Everyone must be tired, right? Come, sit down and rest for a while. Xinxiang, go and pour a few cups of tea for our guests to quench their thirst. Then ask someone to serve the knife-shaved noodles and dishes. Let's talk while we eat." "Wow, so much meat. Sister Suru is starving." Tian Suru had been in the car for half a day and was famished. When he saw the table full of delicacies, his eyes shone with a faint green light. He could not stop swallowing his saliva. He could not wait to pick up his chopsticks and dig in. "All right, we'll do as you say. I'll wait for your good news." Smiling Mithriya agreed and hung up the phone. He felt more at ease and led his men to the direction of Greenstone faction. Although it was just some ordinary chicken, duck, and fish, it was obvious that a lot of effort had been put into it. It looked very grand. Young hero Xiao Qin, smiling Mithriya, has prepared the knife-shaved noodles. The table, chairs, bowls, and chopsticks are ready. Please come in and rest for a while. Dinner will be ready soon. That figure was Zheng Xinxiang. When he saw Xiao Chen and the others, he greeted them enthusiastically. It's your turn to be polite this time. Since we're good friends, how can I not help you? Xiao Chen smiled and waved his hand to stop Zheng Xinxiang from thanking him. Gu Chongyi's illness was not serious. It was a piece of cake for him to cure him. I didn't expect this guy to be so warm-hearted. I thought he would only do bad things. Cheng Minjing followed behind and whispered. Sour, can't you just bear with it? Xiao Qin and the others are discussing serious matters. Why don't you have any manners? Cheng Minjing frowned and said in a low voice. You've renovated the sect quite well. Furthermore, there seems to be quite a number of disciples who have come to learn. Looking at the brand new Green Rock sect and the many disciples cultivating in the square, Xiao Qin nodded slightly and praised. Xiao Qin saw that Gu Chongyi's face was glowing, and he was full of energy. He didn't even need his crutches anymore. Obviously he had recovered well. Xiao Qin smiled and said, Senior Gu, it seems that you are getting more and more energetic. Is your injury okay? Ling Qinshui glanced at the two of them and pursed her lips into a smile, not saying a word. She had long known that Xiao Qin was such a person. Otherwise, when she lost her virginity to him in a daze, why would he take responsibility at the first moment instead of choosing to pretend to have amnesia? Well, how about this? Sect leader Zhuo pondered for a while, then made a decision and said, You stay in the Green Rock sect first and stabilize that Xiao Qin. I'll immediately send a few experts over to reinforce you. When the time comes, you guys can work together from the inside and the outside to directly kill Xiao Qin. This little bastard is too much of a hindrance. Brother Xiang, I'm sorry to disturb you again. Xiao Qin smiled and cupped his hands. Zheng Xinxiang quickly served tea and sat next to Gu Chongyi. Not long after, the disciples of the Green Rock sect served dishes and knife-shaved noodles, filling the table. After Master took your prescription, not only did his injuries heal, but his body also became stronger day by day. Speaking of which, I really have to thank you. Otherwise, I'm afraid he wouldn't have been able to hold on for long. Zheng Xinxiang said with a face full of gratitude. He didn't want to park his car by the roadside like the smiling Mithriya. Even if he wasn't towed away by a tow truck, he would be hit by a passing car. Zheng Xinxiang agreed and left. Xiao Qin bowed to Gu Chongyi and introduced the few people behind him. After a while he sat beside Gu Chongyi at the table. Hearing Zheng Xinxiang mention his master, Xiao Qin asked, Oh right, how is Senior Gu's body? Is it getting better? Although Xiao Qin's story was relatively simple, it was still a relatively long story. As they chatted, they walked to the gate of the Green Rock sect. A figure was standing at the gate waiting for them. When he received the call from Xiao Qin, he was a little puzzled as to why the smiling Mithriya would suddenly appear. However, after thinking carefully for a while, he remembered that they had recently found the spiritual jade treasure and immediately understood the other party's intention. He secretly thanked his lucky stars that Xiao Qin happened to pass by. Otherwise, the spiritual jade that they had just found would definitely be lost. What are you talking about? Why are you being so polite with me? If it weren't for your help, the Green Rock sect wouldn't be where it is today. Not to mention that it's rare for you to come here, you can stay here every day if you want. Zheng Xinxiang patted Xiao Qin's shoulder heavily and said with a sincere face. Then he led him and the rest to the guest hall. He recalled that when he came to the Green Rock sect previously, all he saw were dilapidated thatched cottages, messy grounds, and a miserable look. Now it was completely renovated. However, there were no particularly luxurious buildings. It was just that the old houses were demolished and a few new houses were built in the original locations. It looked rather simple. Leading Jia Muzin and the few ladies up the mountain, Xiao Qin explained to them how he knew Zheng Xinxiang and how he became enemies with the Joyful clan. Recalling that Xiao Qin insisted on cooking shaved noodles, the smiling Mithriya seriously suspected that the other party was trying to find a reasonable excuse, such as the noodles were too unpalatable, to kill him. On the other side, Xiao Qin first called Zheng Xinxiang and told him that the smiling Mithriya was going over to cook for everyone. He asked Zheng Xinxiang to prepare in advance and he would be there soon. Then he drove around the highway and found a service area to park the car. After locking the door, he walked towards the foot of the Greenstone Mountain. Hee, I still have to thank you for your help. Although we have a sum of money, Master said that we shouldn't be extravagant and wasteful. So, we only renovated it a little. It's still passable. Jing Xinxiang scratched his head and smiled. The man that Sister Saori likes must be a peerless and excellent man. Saving someone is a piece of cake. Tian Saori said with a smile. Obviously he was very satisfied with Xiao Qin. Chapter 975. Although she was also hungry, they were guests. The host hadn't even started eating yet, so she couldn't just start. Minjing, don't blame Saoring. We came out in a hurry this morning, so we didn't have much to eat. I'm actually a little hungry too. Ling Qinxue pulled on Cheng Minjing's sleeve and softly tried to smooth things over. The young miss had been influenced by the etiquette of a big family since she was young, so she followed the rules. Compared to Tian Saoring, who had left home early and lived alone, her worldview was naturally very different. Therefore, ever since they set off, Cheng Minjing and Tian Saoring constantly had small conflicts. Ling Qinxue always acted like a big sister and patiently mediated. Otherwise, the two girls would have already started fighting. But Sister Saoring is really hungry? Tian Saoring also knew that this was impolite, so she didn't pick up her chopsticks and start eating. However, she was really hungry, so she couldn't help but touch her stomach and mumble. Grumble, grumble. As soon as Tian Saoring finished speaking, her stomach cooperated and made a sound as if it was proving for her. At this time, Gu Chongyi and Xiao Chen's conversation had just ended, and the rumbling sound was especially clear in the room. Tian Saoring's face turned red and she lowered her head awkwardly. Ah, this little girl has a simple personality, but she's quite interesting. Gu Chongyi didn't mind. He laughed heartily and made an inviting gesture. With an apologetic face he said, "It's all my fault. I got a little excited when I saw young hero Xiao, so I couldn't stop talking. Everyone please take a seat. If the food gets cold it won't taste good." Since the host had already spoken, Xiao Chen and the others didn't bother with pleasantries. After taking a seat, they all raised their chopsticks and started eating. "Xiao Hero, how's the knife-shaved noodles today? Is it to your liking?" Everyone chatted as they ate and the atmosphere was harmonious. Smiling Mithria walked in with a face full of smiles, rubbing his hands and asking flatteringly, "Oh, it's all right. What do you want? Don't tell me you want to eat too?" Xiao Chen glanced at him casually. No, no, no. How can I do that?" The smiling Mithria waved his hand and smiled. Hee. It's like this, I still have something important to do. If there's nothing else, I'd like to leave first so as not to disturb your rest, Hero Xiao. In fact, smiling Mithria was just spouting nonsense. He did not have anything important to do. He just did not want to stay in the Green Rock sect to help Xiao Chen. After all, if this matter were to spread out, it would be too embarrassing. How would they be able to mingle in the martial arts world in the future? He was someone who cared a lot about his reputation. Anyway, the higher-ups had already said that they would immediately send a few experts over. The smiling Mithria now only planned to hide near Greenstone Mountain and keep an eye on Xiao Chen's whereabouts. He would only appear when the experts came. Yo, you want to run? Xiao Chen directly exposed the smiling Mithria's lie and said with a faint smile, "Don't run away. I still have something to ask you." Hero Xiao, please ask. I'll tell you everything I know. The smiling Mithria wiped the sweat on his head and said softly. Xiao Chen put down his chopsticks and asked slowly, "I'm afraid you didn't come to Green Rock Sect just to make knife-shaved noodles for me this time, right? Tell me, why are you here? Don't try to fool me, or I'll let you fly down from Greenstone Mountain and experience how a horse flies to death." The smiling Mithria Buddha was stunned. He thought quickly, wanting to lie to brush Xiao Chen off. However, before he could say anything, he heard Xiao Chen snort coldly. "Think carefully about what to say. Don't seek death." Feeling the murderous intent exuded by Xiao Chen, the smiling Mithria shivered. He knew that he was not joking, so he gritted his teeth and said, "Actually, I received news from the higher-ups that Green Rock Sect found a lot of top-level spiritual jades according to the treasure map left by the sect. So, they sent me to bring people to snatch them. As a result, I met you at the foot of the mountain." "Spiritual jades?" Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows and turned his head to ask non-committally, "Senior Gu, is this guy telling the truth?" Spiritual jades were good things for cultivation. Xiao Chen was naturally tempted when he heard it. However, since it was found by Green Rock Sect, he would not take advantage of them. If he wanted to get it, he naturally had other ways. For example, he could plunder those shameless sects in Wulin. Well, it's true. A while ago when Xan Xiang was renovating his house, he accidentally found a treasure map left by a senior of the sect. Then, according to the location marked on the map, he found a lot of spiritual jades in the back mountain of Greenstone Mountain. Gu Chongyi nodded slightly and confirmed the statement of the smiling Mithraea. Oh, it seems that you are not lying. In that case, who is your higher-up? What do they need so many spiritual jades for? Xiao Qin pondered for a while and turned to ask the smiling Mithraea. The smiling Mithraea hesitated for a while. He did not dare to expose the identity of his higher-up, but he was also afraid that Xiao Qin would be angry and make him fly away. After weighing the pros and cons, he could only answer vaguely, I received orders from the Yin Yun sect. As for why they want the spiritual jades, I am not too sure. After all, I am only following orders. I dare not ask too many questions. Yin Yun sect? Xiao Qin frowned. Wasn't that the sect that Ling Er was in? How was it related to the smiling Mithraea? Could it be that the Yin Yun sect was the peak of the joyful clan in the Wulin? I remember that the Yin Yun sect is an upright sect. How is it related to the joyful clan, a demonic sect? Gu Chongyi suddenly spoke and asked suspiciously. TSK, looks like you are really not afraid of death. How can you come up with such a clumsy lie? Upon hearing that, Xiao Qin laughed coldly and said, I think I should let you have a taste of suffering. Otherwise you will not tell the truth. Standing up, Xiao Qin immediately flashed in front of the smiling Mithraea and picked him up like a little chick. He strode to the window and opened it. As the Green Rock sect's guest hall was originally built on the edge of a cliff, the outside of the window was a bottomless abyss. There was not even a place to stand. Xiao Qin grabbed the smiling Mithraea's left leg and directly carried him out of the window. Don't. Hero Xiao, everything I said is the truth. I'm not lying. Please be magnanimous and spare me. Half of the smiling Mithraea's body was hanging outside the window. When he lowered his head, he saw the bottomless cliff below. He was so frightened that he almost peed his pants. He quickly stuttered and begged for mercy. All right, tell me everything honestly and I will consider letting you live. Otherwise. Xiao Qin did not continue speaking. Instead, he loosened his fingers slightly. The smiling Mithraea felt his chubby body suddenly sink. Chapter 976. Hero Xiao, please don't let go. I'll tell you everything. The smiling Mithraea's body tensed up. He felt a sudden surge of heat between his legs, wetting his pants and gradually flowing down his waist. However, the smiling Mithraea couldn't care less at this moment. With a long face, he quickly explained, the Yin Yun sect and the Joyous clan have only recently started working together in secret. Their goal is to obtain the spiritual jades of the Green Rock sect. As for what they want to do with it, I really have no idea. I'm just an errand boy. Please have mercy and let me go. Alright, I'll believe you this once. Xiao Qin guessed that the smiling Mithraea was not lying this time. He lifted his hand slightly, dragged him in, and threw him on the ground. The smiling Mithraea was saved from death's door. He collapsed on the ground and did not get up for a long time. Xiao Qin looked down at him and said coldly, your noodle cooking skills are not bad. Stay in the Green Rock sect for a few days. Continue to make knife-shaved noodles for us. Don't think about escaping or spreading any news. Otherwise, you know the consequences. Do you understand? After listening to the smiling Mithraea's confession, Xiao Qin guessed that since the Yin Yun sect was determined to obtain the spiritual jades, they would definitely not let it go. The smiling Mithraea had a bad start and did not get what he wanted. They would definitely send someone else to snatch it. If that was the case, he might as well leave the smiling Mithraea here as bait. When the Yin Yun sect arrived, he would catch them all in one fell swoop. Got it? The smiling Mithraea struggled to sit up and agreed while still in shock. He was still panting heavily and a large part of his pants was wet, emitting a foul smell. It's so smelly that I can't eat properly. Xiao Qin chased him away. Tian Suruan was sitting closest to the window so the smell was the strongest. He quickly covered his nose and protested unhappily. Did you hear that? Get lost. Don't bother us if there's nothing important. Xiao Qin waved his hand and sent the smiling Mithraea away. Smiling Mithraea felt as if he had been pardoned. He got up, nodded and bowed and retreated. However, when he reached the door he was stopped by Xiao Qin again. Wait. So, what other instructions does Hero Xiao have? The smiling Mithraea was about to cry, and his face was distorted beyond recognition. Since you're already a regular customer, I don't need to explain the rules, right? Staying in the Green Rock sect would still cost 100 million per day. Food and necessities will be counted separately. Remember to give the money to Brother Xiang. I'll pay on Sunday. The rooms here have all been newly renovated and are much more comfortable than before. You guys are really lucky. Xiao Qin said with a smile, then ignored the smiling Maitreya and continued to call everyone to eat. Oh. Smiling Maitreya answered with grievance, bowed and retreated. Although he was about to go mad with anger, he remembered that the experts of the Yin Yun sect were about to arrive. Xiao Qin wouldn't be able to show off for long, so he decided to endure it for now. When the time came, he would settle the score with him. After eating, Jing Xinxiang brought Xiao Qin and the others to the rooms arranged for them to rest. After a day's journey, everyone was exhausted. Although they had a car, sitting in a car for more than 10 hours in a row would also make people deeply tired. Therefore, after everyone took a shower, they all went to bed early. The next morning, the smiling Maitreya was still sleeping soundly when he was woken up by a disciple of the Green Rock sect. He passed on Xiao Qin's instructions, ordering him to immediately make a few bowls of knife-shaved noodles. Xiao Qin and the others had already woken up. After washing up, they would have breakfast. The smiling Maitreya's heart was about to explode, but he didn't dare to refuse. He could only rub his sleepy eyes, wake up his subordinates and rush to the kitchen together. He was afraid that if he neglected Xiao Qin, he would be taught a lesson later. Smiling Maitreya, how did you end up doing such menial work? What the hell happened? In the kitchen, the smiling Maitreya was making knife-shaved noodles with his head lowered. Suddenly, a figure appeared beside him and looked at him with a puzzled expression. Who are you? How do you know me? The smiling Maitreya was so frightened that he took a few steps back. He stared at the person and asked. The person had a full beard and a rough appearance, but his eyes were very cunning. He didn't know the smiling Maitreya at all, but he was surprised that the person could call out his name. Don't be so surprised. I'm Pan Xianzong from the Yin Yun sect, a cultivator at the peak of the 7th level Martial King realm. Sect leader Zhua sent me here. Pan Xianzong frowned and introduced himself. He then looked at the smiling Maitreya whose face was covered in flour and said with slight disdain, Tell me what happened. Where is that Xiao Qin? Senior Pan, it's an honor to meet you. Here's what happened. The smiling Maitreya was overjoyed. He quickly put down the dough in his hand and cupped his hands at Pan Xianzong. He then told Pan Xianzong everything that had happened to him. Ignorant child. Ignorant. How arrogant. Pan Xianzong snorted in disdain. The smiling Maitreya looked behind Pan Xianzong and asked carefully, By the way, Senior Pan, didn't sect leader Zhua say that he would send more experts to help? Why are you the only one here? Where are the other seniors? Oh, I happen to be doing a mission nearby. I received the order to come here first. There are 2 perfected Martial King Realm senior brothers on their way. They will be here soon. Pan Xianzong said calmly. That's great. Then shall we wait for the 2 senior brothers to arrive before we make our move? The smiling Maitreya was overjoyed. He thought to himself, Little servant Xiao Qin, I'll let you torment me. Your good days are over. Even if you're a Daluo Golden Celestial, you won't be able to escape from 3 Martial King Realm cultivators. There's no need. Pan Xianzong waved his hand and rejected the smiling Maitreya's suggestion. I can kill Xiao Qin on my own. How can I trouble the 2 senior brothers? Wouldn't that make me look useless? When they arrive, we can just move the spiritual jades. Pan Xianzong was not boasting. The smiling Maitreya knew his abilities like the back of his hand. Pan Xianzong was a powerful man. Apart from his strength at the peak of level 7 Martial King Realm, he was especially good at using hidden weapons. His flying dagger technique was superb. Even a perfected Martial King Realm cultivator would have to be wary of him. I'll listen to Senior Pan. The smiling Maitreya nodded and wiped the flour off his hands. I don't need to make any more knife-shaved noodles. I've been suffocating for the past 2 days. As he spoke, the smiling Maitreya picked up the dough on the chopping board and smashed it on the ground. Perhaps he was still angry. He jumped onto the dough and stomped on it twice. That's enough. Go and get Xiao Qin here. I'll deal with him. You go and interrogate the people from Greenstone sect about the whereabouts of the spiritual jades. Pan Xianzong squinted at the smiling Maitreya's good-for-nothing look. He was annoyed and amused at the same time. He ordered impatiently. Chapter 977. In Pan Xianzong's eyes, no matter how powerful Xiao Qin was, he was only at the Demon King level. He did not even care about a Martial King peak, let alone a young junior like Xiaoqin. The outer martial arts world was really different from the inner martial arts world. The outer martial arts world was full of cowardly cultivators like the smiling Mithraea. When they were caught, they did not know how to escape. They were even willing to be servants. It was so embarrassing. Okay, I'll go now. Please wait here for a moment. After the smiling Mithraea stamped on the ground, his shoes and trousers were covered with flour. However, he did not care to wipe them and ran out happily. Since the helper had arrived, the smiling Mithraea's courage was also strengthened. He felt that no matter how powerful Xiaoqin was, he was definitely no match for Pan Xianzong. One had to know that even a martial king peak might not be able to escape from Pan Xianzong's flying knife, let alone a kid who was not even fully grown. At this time, Xiaoqin was sitting in the living room casually. Seeing the smiling Mithraea suddenly rushing in with nothing in his hands, his face could not help but sink. He asked in a dangerous tone, "Shaved Mithraea, it seems that you don't take my words seriously? I've just asked someone to inform you that I want to eat breakfast. Now you come to see me empty-handed. What do you mean? Did you not see enough of yesterday's scenery?" No, Hero Xiao, don't be angry. Seeing that Xiaoqin's face was not good, the smiling Mithraea's original 100% courage suddenly lost half of it. He stopped abruptly and said timidly, "I don't want to be angry with you," Xiaoqin said lightly. The smiling Mithraea just breathed a sigh of relief and heard him continue, "But the scenery outside the window is good. I can carry you to have a look." After that, Xiaoqin stood up and walked step by step toward the smiling Mithraea. As he walked, he slowly rolled up his sleeves. The smiling Mithraea suddenly shivered, and his remaining courage dissipated. He had a premonition that he would be beaten soon, so he quickly explained like a machine gun, "I don't know if you are free now, Master Xiao? There's someone in the kitchen who wants to see you. He specifically asked me to tell you that he has something important to discuss with you." Xiaoqin had just walked in front of the smiling Mithraea and stared at him with a faint smile. The smiling Mithraea's legs went soft, and he almost knelt down. Finally, he held on and forced a guilty smile. His back was drenched in cold sweat. In fact, Xiaoqin had already sensed with his divine sense that a foreign cultivator had snuck into Greenrock sect. However, he pretended not to know and teased with a smile, "Oh? Who wants to see me? He's actually in the kitchen. Could it be that there's a new pastry chef?" Yes. Actually, it's one of my subordinates. Not only is he good at making shaved noodles, but he also admires you very much. So, he wants to invite you over to taste the new flavor of shaved noodles that he specially made for you. The smiling Mithraea rolled his eyes and quickly replied respectfully. He was a little happy in his heart. Originally, he couldn't find a way to fool Xiaoqin. He didn't expect that Xiaoqin would directly help him think of a reason. "Oh, it turns out to be my admirer. Well, then I'll go and have a look. If he can really make shaved noodles well, then I'll promote him to a high-level pastry chef. In the future, he can enjoy a generous treatment. At the end of the year, he'll even get a double salary and a paid holiday." Xiaoqin looked like he suddenly understood. He nodded in a serious manner, walked around the smiling Mithraea and went directly to the kitchen. When the smiling Mithraea saw that there was a chance, he immediately became energetic. He first watched him leave in a flattering manner. When Xiaoqin walked far away, he followed him from a distance. He sneered in his heart. "I'll let you show off for a few more minutes. I'll see how you die later." Outside the kitchen, the smiling Mithraea didn't dare to get too close. He was afraid that he would be accidentally injured by the flying knife. He looked around and simply found a place that was neither too far nor too close to hide. He stuck his head out and stared at the kitchen door. The smiling Mithraea was not stupid. He planned to confirm that Xiaoqin was really dead, and then he would find Gu Chongyi to interrogate about the whereabouts of the spiritual jade. Although he didn't doubt Pan Xinzong's ability, Xiaoqin's flying sword was also very powerful. In case both sides were injured, he could go up and stab Pan Xinzong, right? Xiaoqin swaggered into the kitchen, glanced at Pan Xinzong and said slowly, "You're the new pastry chef, right? I'm here. Hurry up and show me your shaved noodles. This young master's stomach is about to flatten from hunger. I'm just waiting to eat your knife-shaved noodles." "Xiaoqin, I didn't expect you to really dare to come and see me." Pan Xinzong had seen Xiaoqin's photo before, so when Xiaoqin came in he confirmed it. He didn't care what Xiaoqin said and snorted, "I thought it would take a lot of effort. It seems that you are also an idiot. You don't even know that you're about to die." Pan Xinzong didn't say much nonsense. He directly ran his mind cultivation method, moved his qi to his dantian, and then took out a flying knife from behind him and held it in his hand. Oh, not bad. I didn't expect you to bring your own shaving tools. It seems that the fat man with shaved noodles didn't recommend wrongly. You do have some skills. Hurry up and make the noodles. I can't wait. Xiao Qun crossed his arms in front of his chest and said with a face full of expectation. Kid, you're courting death. Seeing Xiao Qun's indifferent look, Pan Xianzong was furious. The flying knife in his hand quickly condensed a mist. Pan Xianzong suddenly waved his hand, and the flying knife attacked Xiao Qun's face at an extremely fast speed. Whoosh! There was a sound of something breaking through the air. Pan Xianzong was standing in the same place complacently, waiting for the flying knife to kill Xiao Qun with one blow. In the end, an unexpected scene appeared. Xiao Qun suddenly disappeared from the place where he stood. The flying knife directly passed through the place where Xiao Qun originally stood and flew out of the door. Soon it disappeared without a trace. Smiling Mithriya, who was hiding not far away and staring at the door, only felt a flash of light, and a cold wind flew past his cheek. He didn't know what happened, so he subconsciously touched his face, but he felt a tingling pain on his face. He looked down at his hand and found that there was blood and a few broken hairs. Hiss! Smiling Mithriya couldn't help but be shocked. He suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. That wind just now was Pan Xianzong's flying knife. If he had taken a wrong step, he would probably have been blown up in the head. Pan Xianzong was also surprised at this time. Where was Xiao Qun? How could he just disappear like that? Why did such a good dough be thrown on the ground? This is made from the hard work of the farmers. It's such a waste. A voice suddenly came from the other side. Pan Xianzong turned his head abruptly and saw Xiao Qun carefully picking up the dough that the smiling Mithriya Buddha had thrown earlier. Xiao Qun patted the dust off the dough carefully and said indignantly, "Who threw this? Tell me quickly. I promise I won't kill him." Chapter 978. This. A few of the smiling Mithriya's underlings were hiding in the kitchen. They looked at each other in dismay. They were afraid of the devil-like Xiao Qun, but they did not dare to reveal the smiling Mithriya's identity. They could only look around and pretend that they did not hear what Xiao Qun had said. However, Xiao Qun did not intend to ask anything. He had sensed Pan Xianzong's attack with his divine sense as a cultivator and dodged in time. However, he happened to see the dough on the ground. Even if he thought with his toes, he would know that it was definitely the doing of the smiling Mithriya. How did you dodge it? That's impossible. Even a level 10 martial king would not be able to dodge my flying daggers. Are you already a martial venerable? Pan Xianzong looked at Xiao Qun in disbelief. He only saw a figure flash past before his eyes, and then his flying dagger missed. He did not see Xiao Qun's movements at all, so he was extremely shocked. What martial king or martial venerable? Are you here to make shaved noodles or not? You can't even hold on to your own tool and it flew away. It seems that your cooking is only SOSO. Xiao Qun glared at Pan Xianzong in dissatisfaction. He walked over with the dough and placed it on the table in front of Pan Xianzong. He waved his hand unhurriedly and said, "Come, come, come. This young master will give you another chance. Watch carefully this time. I'll cut your grandmother's ass." This time, Pan Xianzong finally understood what Xiao Qun was saying. He immediately felt that he had suffered a great humiliation. He was so angry that he trembled. He took out 2 throwing knives from his clothes and flung them at Xiao Qun. One of them was aimed at Xiao Qun's heart, and the other sealed off Xiao Qun's path of retreat. This killing saber was Pan Xianzong's signature move. It was a pincer attack that blocked all escape routes. Very few people could dodge it. Even if a level 10 martial king managed to dodge it with all his might, he would still be injured. Puff puff. Xiao Qun had no time to dodge. His chest and back were pierced by the flying daggers at the same time. "Brat, weren't you being stubborn just now? What about now? You don't feel good being pierced by my flying daggers, do you?" Pan Xianzong narrowed his eyes with a joyful expression. The flying dagger was deeply embedded in Xiao Qun's chest, almost to the hilt. However, although he was seriously injured, Xiao Qun still stood there without any change in his expression, as if he had no reaction. Pan Xianzong laughed and said, "Don't try to be brave. Let me tell you, both of my deadly demon blades are coated with poison. Don't think that you can still rely on your devil chi to hold on. It won't be long before the poison seeps into your internal organs. Just wait for your 7 apertures to bleed and you'll die in pain." Ah. Sigh, It seems that not only are your skills bad, your eyesight is also bad. Xiao Qin shook his head. He raised the dough in his hand and waved it in front of Pan Xianzong. With a helpless expression he said, "Do you think stabbing a knife into the dough is called knife-shaved noodles? With your skills you still dare to come out and embarrass yourself? What specially made knife-shaved noodles? I find it shameful even to be my admirer. You should go back and train for a few more years." What? Pan Xianzong only felt that there was a blur in front of him, and the scene in front of him suddenly changed. He saw Xiao Qin holding the dough in his left hand and standing there leisurely. And the 2 flying knives that he had just shot out were firmly inserted into the dough. This. Pan Xianzong opened his mouth wide and was speechless. He was stunned for a while before shouting loudly, "This is impossible. The flying knives were clearly inserted into your body just now. How did they run into the dough? I already said that your eyesight is bad. Why don't you believe me?" Xiao Qin sighed. His left hand shook slightly, and the 2 flying knives fell to the ground with a clang. Just now, he simply set up an illusion to make Pan Xianzong think that he was shot by the flying knives. In fact, he just used the dough to catch the flying knives. T. Pan Xianzong's face was flushed. He turned his head angrily and asked the smiling Mithria's men who were hiding far away by the window, "You guys, tell me the truth. Was Xiao Qin stabbed by the flying knives just now? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise I will kill you." "Yes, yes." The smiling Mithria's men looked at each other, scratched their heads and answered with uncertainty. In fact, what they saw just now was the illusion of Xiao Qin being stabbed, but Xiao Qin was still standing there, alive and kicking without any injury. What the hell is going on? Alright, stop talking nonsense. Do you know how to make shaved noodles or not? With your crappy skills, even if you make noodles, it will be a waste of materials. Just die. Xiao Qin directly blew the dough in his hand at Pan Xianzong's head. Ah. Before Pan Xianzong could react, he felt a flash of cold light. 2 flying knives instantly pierced his eyes. Pan Xianzong only had time to scream before he fell straight down. His face was pale green and he stopped breathing in the blink of an eye. He didn't understand what had happened until he died. The smiling Mithria was afraid of being accidentally injured by the flying knives, so he deliberately moved closer and hid behind the door. As a result, when he poked his head out, he saw the scene of 2 flying knives piercing Pan Xianzong's head with the dough. He was immediately shocked. He thought that Pan Xianzong would be able to deal with Xiao Qin easily, but he didn't expect to be fooled by Xiao Qin and lose his life in the end. This Xiao Qin was simply too terrifying. Shaved noodles, Mithria, stop hiding. Hurry up and get in here. Xiao Qin patted the flour on his hands and shouted outside the door. Yes, yes, yes. What orders do you have, Hero Xiao? The smiling Mithria shivered and didn't dare to hide anymore. He quickly ran to Xiao Qin, his legs shaking non-stop, and his face was humble. What kind of D*Ned noodle chef did you find? With this skill, didn't you see him cut himself to death? This young master is still hungry. Are you deliberately messing with me? Xiao Qin frowned and pointed at the smiling Mithria's nose as he scolded. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. The smiling Mithria broke out in a cold sweat as he waved his hand. Looking at Pan Xianzong, who was lying on the ground, dead, the smiling Mithria couldn't help but complain secretly. What's going on? He absolutely didn't believe that Pan Xianzong could really cut himself to death by shaving noodles, but the truth was in front of him. The scene he saw seemed to be Pan Xianzong cutting the dough with a knife. Otherwise, why was the dough still on the knife? Misunderstanding? Then give this young master an explanation. Otherwise, I'll hang you outside the living room's window for the entire day. Xiao Qin said coldly. The smiling Mithria thought of that scene and immediately shuddered. He wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said with a bitter face, Hero Xiao, I'm actually not familiar with this guy. I only know that he's your admirer. If I knew that his shaving skills were so bad, I wouldn't have let him do it. Chapter 979. Is that so? Xiao Qin said unhurriedly, then give me a way to deal with this. Let's see if I'm satisfied with it. Oh, don't worry. I'll ask someone. No, I'll cook myself. I'll make breakfast for everyone and send it to you personally. Smiling Mithria forced a smile that was uglier than a crying face. Oh. Xiao Qin purposely dragged out the last syllable. He had a pondering look on his face. When the smiling Mithria's face turned ashen and sweat poured down like rain, he continued, Forget it, the ignorant are not guilty. Hurry up and get to work. If this young master still doesn't see the shaved noodles in 10 minutes, I'll use a knife to cut you up. Do you understand? Glaring at smiling Mithria, Xiaoqin turned around and walked out of the door with his hands behind his back. Yes, I understand. Smiling Mithria nodded repeatedly and then kicked his men who were standing there in a daze. He scolded, "What the hell are you waiting for? Do you want me to be cut? Hurry up and get to work. Knead the dough for me quickly." However, before Xiaoqin went far, he suddenly thought of something. He patted his forehead and turned back. He grabbed smiling Mithria and said coldly, "Listen. If there are more people coming, I want you to find out what they want the spirit jades for. If you get the answer, continue to cut the noodles. If not, I'll cut you." "Oh, I see." Smiling Mithria quickly agreed, then lowered his head and continued to work hard on the shaved noodles. When Xiaoqin was really far away, he took out his mobile phone and ran to the side to call Zhuo. To smiling Mithria's surprise, there was no signal in the kitchen at all. He had no choice but to run out and try to find another place to call. It turned out that the Greenstone sect's signal was very poor, probably because it was on the edge of a cliff. It took him a long time to find a place with a signal. After trying many times, he finally managed to get through. "Hello Mithria, how's it going? Xiaoqin should have been killed by Pan Xinzong, right?" After the phone was connected, Zhuo asked slowly, as if he had the overall situation under control. "Sect leader Zhuo, we've screwed up. I don't know how Pan Xinzong died. I suspect that it was Xiaoqian's doing." The smiling Mithria reported anxiously. "What? Pan Xinzong was dead? How could this be? What happened?" Zhuo was so surprised that he couldn't close his mouth. He was very clear about Pan Xinzong's strength. No matter what, he shouldn't have died in the hands of Xiaoqin. Could it be that someone had secretly helped Xiaoqin? "It's like this. I was making breakfast in the kitchen this morning, and then Pan Xinzong came over and asked me to lead Xiaoqin to the kitchen." The smiling Mithria didn't dare to neglect and directly told the previous situation. Well? Zhuo was confused. He also didn't know how Pan Xinzong had died. After thinking for a long time, he gave up and said, "Forget it. Maybe Xiaoqin was lucky. Anyway, don't act rashly for now. Find a chance to find out where the spiritual jade is hidden. Then wait for the other two masters to come, and then we can deal with Xiaoqin together." The cause of Pan Xinzong's death was no longer important. The key now was to get the spiritual jade first. "Okay. But sect leader Zhuo, I've worked so hard and risked my life to deal with this matter for you. If I succeed this time, can you reward me?" The smiling Mithria rolled his eyes and said conveniently, "Reward? What kind of reward do you want?" Zhuo was stunned and asked subconsciously. The smiling Mithria said carefully, "I heard that all the sects in the martial arts world are collecting spiritual jade to prepare for something big, and they can also get great benefits. At that time, can you share some with me, sect leader Zhuo?" In fact, the smiling Mithria just wanted to get some information from Zhuo. After all, Xiaoqin had told him, so he didn't dare not to ask. With Xiaoqian's weird temper, he might find a reason to kill him at any time. Maybe he could use this information to exchange for a way out? "Mithria, I know you've worked hard for the Yinyun sect and the Joyful clan, and I'll remember it." Zhuo said earnestly, "It's not that I don't want to share with you, but your strength is too low. You should know that you can't go to the venerable secret land without reaching the great perfection of the Demon King. Even if I sign up for you, it will be a waste in the end." Zhuo didn't guard against the smiling Mithria. Anyway, this matter had already been spread in the martial arts world. He just needed to remind him to keep it a secret in the martial arts world. The venerable secret land? What is that place? The smiling Mithria heard the new term, so he became spirited and asked quickly. "The venerable secret land is prepared for the martial king and the demon king to advance to the venerable realm." Zhuo had nothing to do, so he simply chatted with the smiling Mithria. After every cultivator reaches the martial king or the great perfection of the demon king, they can go to the venerable secret land to improve their strength and advance their cultivation to the venerable realm. Oh, what does it have to do with spiritual jades? The smiling Mithria was excited in his heart. Venerable. This is the height that I can only look up to. Opening the venerable secret land requires a lot of spiritual jades, so the major sects in the martial arts world are in a hurry to prepare now. Zhuo answered. "I see." The smiling Mithria murmured, and he was a little disappointed. "If I had worked harder and reached the great perfection of the Demon King, maybe I could also get a place this time. Alas, if I knew it would be like this, why did I do it in the beginning? But don't worry. Although you can't go to the venerable secret land as long as you do this thing well, I won't treat you badly in other aspects. Zhuo Fifan said kindly. When the smiling Mithraea was about to express his gratitude, Zhuo Fifan suddenly changed his tone and warned him in a low voice. But you have to remember that what I just said is absolutely confidential. I tell you because I trust you. Don't tell anyone else or you will die. No, I won't. I will definitely keep my mouth shut. I won't tell anyone even if you beat me to death. Zhuo Fifan's gloomy tone made the smiling Mithraea shudder, and he hurriedly swore. Don't be so nervous. I also believe that you won't. I just want to remind you first. Zhuo Fifan's tone changed again and he said gently. The smiling Mithraea almost thought that Zhuo Fifan had some kind of voice-changing magic skill, so he didn't dare to say more and just answered submissively. Well, then you go on with your business. I will ask those two masters to go there as soon as possible. Zhuo Fifan said a few more words and hung up the phone. The smiling Mithraea put away the phone and walked around in circles. He was so worried that he frowned and felt very embarrassed. Originally he wanted to tell Xiaoqin all the news, but now he didn't dare to say it. Chapter 980. If he told them everything he might still have a chance to live, but he would definitely be killed by Zhuo Fifan when he returned. But if he didn't tell them he probably wouldn't even be able to go back. He would be killed by Xiaoqin sooner or later. What should he do? The smiling Mithraea, who was in a dilemma, stared blankly for a while. He really couldn't think of a better idea, so he could only go back dejectedly. It seemed that he could only take one step at a time and hope that the two experts who came later could kill Xiaoqin so that he could escape from the abyss of suffering sooner. The smiling Mithraea didn't have to wait too long. That evening, two peak perfection experts from the Yin Yun sect rushed to the Green Rock sect with a little girl. They first hid outside and observed for a while. They found a few disciples of the Joyful clan going in and out of the kitchen, seemingly preparing ingredients. The three of them prepared to go to the kitchen and find those disciples to ask about the smiling Mithraea's whereabouts. But as soon as they stepped into the kitchen, they saw the smiling Mithraea standing in front of the stove, preparing dinner. It saved them a lot of trouble. They directly went forward and reported their sect. Oh, it's the three experts from the Yin Yin sect. You're finally here. I missed you so much. The smiling Mithraea had been on tenterhooks for the whole afternoon. Now that he saw the three of them, he was happier than seeing his own mother. The three people from the Yin Yun sect looked at each other, a little confused. None of them were familiar with this smiling Mithraea. Where did this "missed you so much" come from? Wasn't he a little too enthusiastic? The smiling Mithraea's excitement wasn't fake. He originally thought that only two people would come. He didn't expect that there would be three of them at once. It seemed that Zhuo Fifan attached great importance to Xiaoqin and Ling Yu. He was saved now. The smiling Mithraea secretly observed them and found that the two middle-aged men looked very similar. Their gestures were very compatible. He guessed that they should be twins. The other girl was quite beautiful, but she was from the Yin Yun sect. The smiling Mithraea didn't dare to have any ideas about her. He could only sneak a few more glances to feast his eyes. After observing them, the smiling Mithraea smiled and greeted them enthusiastically. I'm the smiling Mithraea. I believe sect leader Zhuo has already introduced me to the experts. How should I address you? Immortality. One of the twins, a man with a mole on his nose, glanced at the smiling Mithraea in disdain and introduced himself in a cold tone. Don't carry oars. Another man with a scar at the corner of his eye looked at the distance outside the window with his hands behind his back as he calmly announced his name. Oh. Since the two of you are unwilling to reveal your names, then I won't force you. The smiling Mithraea looked embarrassed, feeling a little depressed. It was said that the cultivators of the internal martial arts world were very arrogant. This time they finally saw it. They didn't even want to mention their names. They even talked about classical Chinese. How could they continue to cooperate happily in the future? My name is Ling Er. Ling Er, on the other hand, smiled amiably and explained to the smiling Mithraea, these two senior uncles don't usually like to talk. They've already introduced themselves. Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu are their names. Oh, I see. It's Junior's misunderstanding, my apologies. The smiling Mithraea suddenly came to a realization. He cursed in his heart, but he still looked very enthusiastic on the surface. He asked politely, I wonder if you guys have had dinner? Do you want me to arrange for my subordinates to make some simple meals for you to fill your stomachs first? Ling Er waved her hand and said, don't be in a hurry to cook. We're not here to eat. Tell us about Xiaoqin first. Previously, Ling Er happened to be training in the internal martial arts world with her two senior uncles. Zhuo Fifan wanted to find someone to kill Xiaoqin. Originally, he only planned to call Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu, but when he heard that Ling Er was also there, his mind immediately became active. Zhuo Fifan knew that Ling Er and Xiaoqin had a good relationship. He thought that since Xiaoqin could kill a peak level 7 demon king, he must have some tricks up his sleeves. So, he planned to send 2 expert disciples to test him first. If he was really too strong, then he would send Ling Er to use a honey trap to deal with Xiaoqin. After all, it wasn't easy for the Mo brothers to advance to martial king perfection stage. There was no need to fight until both sides suffered. Anyway, Ling Er had already used a honey trap to get the forging materials. This time it should be easy to get Xiaoqin to take the bait. Okay. But I want to ask a presumptuous question first. May I know your cultivation level? The smiling Mithriya asked tentatively. Xiaoqin's methods were strange. If the 2 people who came were lower than Pan Xianzong, then there was no need to go at all. Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu both glared at the smiling Mithriya as if reprimanding him for doubting his ability. Ling Er saw that the situation was not good, so she spoke first. Both senior uncles are martial king perfection stage, there's no problem. You 2 are really powerful. Then, according to Miss Ling Er, let's deal with Xiaoqin first. Here's the thing. The smiling Mithriya was wild with joy. He quickly told them about Pan Xianzong's death, then looked at the Mo brothers expectantly, waiting for them to make a decision. 2 martial king perfection stage experts. That's just too awesome. Xiaoqin will definitely die this time. DSK, he's just a kid. Even if he's a demon king, how strong can he be? Do you think he can dodge our joint attack? Stop talking nonsense, hurry up and take us to kill him. Sect leader Zhua is still waiting for news. Mo Zaidi waved his hand disdainfully. He couldn't wait to deal with Xiaoqin. The sooner he was done, the sooner he could report back. Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu were born and raised in the Yin sect. Due to their strong telepathy, they were several times more powerful than a normal person when they fought. Furthermore, they were the best candidates to cultivate joint attacks. With joint attacks, they were like tigers that had grown wings. They were able to run amok in the martial world and had yet to taste defeat. In the eyes of the Mo brothers, Xiaoqin was already a dead man. Hence, they could not be bothered to waste any more time. On one hand, they wanted to avenge Pan Xianzong as soon as possible. On the other hand, they wanted to get their hands on the spiritual jade so that they could return to the Yin sect and prepare for the martial honors secret realm. Alright, please follow me. We're going to find trouble with Xiaoqin. The smiling Mithriya hurriedly made an inviting gesture and led the 2 to the guest hall. The smiling Mithriya's footsteps were light and he was both shocked and excited. He never thought that not only were the twins at the martial king perfection stage, they also possessed joint attacks. One should know that a joint attack was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It was an existence that was many times more powerful than an ordinary martial skill. It was said that as long as it was used well, it could even defeat a martial honor. Not to mention Xiaoqin, a mere demon king level brat. Chapter 981. Ling Er's expression darkened as she watched everyone leave. She followed behind them with a heavy heart. Ever since she had received this mission, Ling Er had been very worried about Xiaoqin's situation. However, she did not know how to send a message. Although she knew Xiaoqin's phone number, she did not even have the chance to send a message on her way here. Although she had heard that Xiaoqin had dealt with Pan Xianzong, which showed that he was very strong, Ling Er still believed that her 2 martial uncles were much more powerful than Pan Xianzong. Furthermore, the 2 of them had joined forces to deal with him. This meant that Xiaoqin's chances of winning were even lower. Ling Er was extremely vexed as she followed the Mo brothers from afar. Because the mission to steal forging information had not been very successful, she and Granny Nanshan had now become negative examples in the Yin sect. On the surface, she had come out to train with her 2 martial uncles. In reality, Ling Er knew that Zhuo Fifan had only casually sent her on a mission after he had used her and felt that she was no longer of any value. She was no longer a core disciple. Ling Er still could not think of a way to let Xiaoqin escape unscathed as they were about to reach the parlor. She had no choice but to find a place to hide and watch from the sidelines. Ling Er planned to ambush her 2 martial uncles if the situation went south. She hoped that she could stall them for a while so that Xiaoqin could escape successfully. Bang! The smiling Mithriya pushed open the door and swaggered into the parlor. Now that he had the support of an expert, he no longer had to bow and scrape. Instead, he shouted confidently, "Xiaoqin, come out with me. There are two experts who want to talk to you." Where did these experts come from? Why are they looking for me? Could it be that you found another two cooked wheaten food masters and want me to teach them a lesson? Xiaoqin sat in the middle of the parlor with his legs crossed as he asked leisurely. He had already guessed that the Yinyun sect would not let the matter rest after Pan Xianzong's death. Thus, he had already set up a few surveillance spells in the kitchen. He had clearly heard the conversation between the few people just now. But what surprised Xiaoqin was that Linger actually came too. In fact, Xiaoqin always felt that he owed her something. He always wanted to make it up to her, but he never found the opportunity. Now was a good time, but Cheng Minjing and the others were here. If he were to meet Linger in public, would they be unhappy? Forget it. He could only take it one step at a time. The smiling Mithriya didn't know that Xiaoqian's thoughts had drifted to the troubles of too many beautiful women. He said arrogantly, "What master of wheaten food? Let me tell you, the two of them are the top experts of the Yinyun sect. Let me give you a piece of advice out of goodwill. A wise man submits to circumstances. You'd better hand over all your spiritual jades obediently and kowtow to them to admit your mistake. That way you might be able to keep your life." After saying that with a fake smile, the smiling Mithriya stared at Xiaoqin proudly. He felt that this guy was just pretending to be calm. In fact, he must be afraid of death. "Then I'll go take a look." Xiaoqin seemed to be a little interested. He slowly stood up and walked towards the door. The smiling Mithriya followed behind him excitedly. Outside the door, Xiaoqin glanced at Emo Zaidi and Emo Zayu and frowned. "Shaved Mithriya, are you trying to trick me again? They obviously have hair. How can you say that they're top experts?" The smiling Mithriya was momentarily at a loss for words. A wave of anger was stuck in his throat. What kind of situation is this? You're still talking about this with me? Could it be that newborn calves are not afraid of tigers? Ignorant child, take advantage of the opportunity. You still have to say a few more words. We'll send you on your way in a moment. Emo Zaidi ignored Xiaoqian's provocation and gave Emo Zayu a look. Their bodies shook at the same time, revealing the strength of a martial king at the great perfection stage. The fallen leaves in the courtyard began to sway even though there was no wind. Not long after, a white mist gradually enveloped their bodies and spread outwards. A violent shockwave wreaked havoc in the courtyard, violently sweeping up the fallen leaves and shredding them. Wow. Amazing. Are you two going to fuse together like in the Dragon Ball manga? Xiaoqin pretended to be surprised and clapped his hands a few times. Full of enthusiasm, he said, "Come, come, come, I'll help you shout the slogan. Move, 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 stop. Remember to align your fingers. Otherwise, it's none of my business if you fuse together and create a monster." The smiling Mithriya was so angry that smoke was almost coming out of his 7 orifices. Was this Xiaoqin an idiot? Did he think he was playing house? However, Emo Zaidi and Emo Zayu were not affected by Xiaoqin. They both closed their eyes and continued to gather their martial qi. The white mist around them grew thicker and thicker, and the shockwave spreading outwards grew stronger. The smiling Mithriya standing at the door could clearly feel the wind blowing against his face. "Sai, don't you think it takes too long to gather qi for your ultimate move? If it were anyone else, they would have killed you long ago. Only this young master has the time to watch you two act like idiots." Xiaoqin yawned and shook his head in boredom. He directly released his mental power and said expressionlessly, "All right, that's enough." "Ah, Xiaoqin, your time has come." The Emo brothers suddenly laughed maniacally at the same time. As the two of them laughed, the white fog in the courtyard was quickly absorbed and condensed in their palms. Then, the Emo brothers suddenly turned around in a strange manner and stood face to face with each other. Both of their palms slapped towards each other. Boom! Emo Zaidi and Emo Zayu's palms collided heavily with each other. Following that, a loud explosion rang out. The white mist suddenly exploded, and the place where they stood immediately exploded. The white mist filled the entire courtyard, and the powerful shockwave spread out in all directions. The entire courtyard was almost destroyed, and the smiling Mithriya was sent flying several zhang away, landing heavily on the ground. Amazing. Simply too amazing. The smiling Mithriya was stunned for a while before he reacted. He clutched his aching butt and struggled to stand up, praising loudly. After dispersing the white mist around him, the smiling Mithriya could vaguely see a large pit in the courtyard. He hurriedly limped over and said flatteringly, "Seniors, that bastard Xiaoqin has been blown into thin air. You two are too awesome." What nonsense are you saying? You've been blown into a daze, haven't you? Before he could rejoice for a few seconds, the smiling Mithriya suddenly heard a familiar voice behind him. He was so shocked that his legs turned to jelly and he immediately turned to look. So, Xiao Qin. Looking at the unharmed Xiao Qin, the smiling Mithriya was dumbfounded. He stammered, This doesn't make sense. Didn't you die in the explosion? Are you a human or a ghost? Why are you completely fine? Chapter 982. That's what I wanted to ask you. Xiao Qin glared fiercely at the smiling Mithriya and slapped him on the head. He said angrily, What kind of crappy master did you find for me this time? Were these two people mentally ill? Why the hell were they playing firecrackers in the yard? Didn't they know it would hurt the plants? Even if they didn't, it's not right to scare others. Luckily they only blew themselves up and didn't hurt anyone else. Otherwise, even if you made shaving noodles for me for the rest of your life, I still wouldn't be able to pay for the medical fees. What? The smiling Mithriya looked like he had seen a ghost. He looked around in horror. As the white mist dissipated, he saw Mo Zaidi and Mo Zaya lying on the ground, motionless. Only then did the smiling Mithriya realize that the Mo brothers had been blown up. What the hell was going on? Weren't they going to use a joint attack to deal with Xiao Qin? Why was he still alive and well? Why did he end up losing his life? Linger, who was hiding not too far away, was also dumbstruck. She was extremely shocked in her heart. She had seen her two martial uncles use their combined martial skill before, and it was indeed very powerful. However, they usually attacked others with their palms. Why did they suddenly attack each other just now? Could it be that they were in a hurry to get rid of Xiao Qin and accidentally went berserk? Don't play dumb. It was a perfectly good yard, but those two guys blew up a big hole. This repair fee is on your head. Remember to pay for it from Brother Xiang. Xiao Qin glanced at Linger's hiding place and didn't expose her immediately. Instead, he waved his hand and said indifferently, All right, is everything all right? Hurry up and go back to shaving noodles. It's almost mealtime, don't think of slacking off. Got it? The smiling Mithriya nodded dejectedly and limped to the kitchen while clutching his butt. He was still puzzled. What the smiling Mithriya didn't know was that Xiao Qin had used his psychic energy to control Mo Zaidi's and Mo Zayu's consciousnesses, forcing them to kill each other. That was why both of them were killed in action, but there was not a single flaw on the outside. If one wasn't a cultivator, they wouldn't be able to see through the trick at all. The smiling Mithriya Buddha couldn't figure out what had just happened as he walked. He felt that Xiao Qin must have possessed some kind of demonic sorcery. Otherwise, how could he have escaped unscathed under such a strong attack? And even killed Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu, two martial king realm experts, on the spot without anyone noticing? The more smiling Mithriya thought about it, the more scared he became. His slow walk gradually turned into a jog, and he ran faster and faster towards the kitchen. Dashing into the kitchen, the smiling Mithriya ordered his disciples to pack up quickly and prepare to escape back to the joyful clan overnight. He felt that Xiao Qin was too scary. If he stayed here, he could lose his life at any time. And it was the kind of death that was mysterious and unpredictable. Instead of waiting to be slaughtered, it was better to escape as soon as possible. After all, as the saying goes, where there's life, there's hope. Just as the kitchen was in a mess, the kitchen door was suddenly pushed open with a creak. The smiling Mithriya Buddha was shocked, thinking that Xiao Qin had come again. He quickly took a piece of dough and pretended to knead the dough on the chopping board. The other disciples also looked at each other in a panic. Some of them ran to the corner, while others simply threw the things in their hands on the ground, pretending that nothing had happened. The kitchen door opened and Linger walked in. Seeing the smiling Mithriya Buddha and the others in a panic, she asked in surprise, What are you doing? Why did you make such a mess in the kitchen? Oh, it's Miss Ling. Next time, knock on the door before you come in. I was almost scared to death by you. The smiling Mithriya Buddha immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He put down the dough in his hands and ordered his subordinates to continue cleaning up. I asked you, what are you doing? All of you are in a hurry. Are you preparing to escape? Ling-Er looked at the scene in front of her with a puzzled expression. She originally wanted to go to Xiao Qin directly, but considering that the smiling Mithriya Buddha was still in Greenstone faction, it was not convenient for her to act on her own. Moreover, she had to report the death of her two uncle masters to the faction, so she came to the kitchen first. Oh, my Miss Ling, what are you talking about? Of course I have to escape. Your two uncle masters are so powerful, but they were killed by Xiaoqin in the end. Why can't I escape with my insignificant cultivation? Am I supposed to stay here and wait for death? The smiling Maitreya Buddha's face fell, and he complained incessantly. If he had known this would happen, he would have taken the opportunity to escape when Mo Zaidi and Mo Zayu were looking for trouble, so as to avoid unnecessary trouble. How can that be? Wait a moment, I'll call the faction leader first and see what he has to say. Ling directly rejected the smiling Maitreya Buddha's idea. She took out her phone and dialed Zhuofifan's number. The smiling Maitreya Buddha was very anxious, but he did not dare to leave without permission, so he could only walk around in the kitchen like an ant on a hot pan. Soon Linger's call went through, and Zhuofifan's voice came from the other end. Ling, how's it going? Has Xiaoqin been killed by your two uncle masters? Reporting to faction leader Zhuo, Xiaoqin is still alive. I don't know what happened to the two uncle masters, but they killed each other. Ling tried her best to describe how the two uncle masters died from qi deviation. What did you say? They're all dead? Zhuofifan thought he had heard it wrong, so he confirmed with Ling again, and then he believed that the Mo brothers were really dead. However, he still found it hard to accept, so he asked subconsciously, where is the smiling Maitreya Buddha? Is he still alive? He's here, he's still alive. I'll let him talk to you. Ling put down her phone, pressed the speaker button, and signaled the smiling Maitreya Buddha to say something to Zhuofifan. Faction leader Zhuo, thank you for your concern. I'm still alive. That Xiaoqin is so powerful. He didn't even need to make a move to kill those two experts. They were peak martial king realm. Xiaoqin must have used some sorcery. The smiling Maitreya Buddha said, trembling with fear. Well, Zhuofifan was speechless. He didn't expect Xiaoqin to be so powerful. After thinking carefully for a long time, he said in a low voice, forget it, it seems that I underestimated him this time. Xiaoqin is definitely not a devil king. Maybe he has reached the venerable realm. Venerable. Venerable. The smiling Maitreya Buddha was so scared that he trembled. His legs went soft and he directly knelt on the ground. Did I hear it wrong? Did I offend? Venerable? Oh my God. It's a miracle that I'm still alive and didn't lose my life. Why didn't Xiaoqin kill me? Is it because my knife-shaved noodles are so delicious that I survived? Chapter 983. That must be it. Pan Xianzong and the Mo brothers didn't know how to make knife-shaved noodles, so Xiaoqin killed them because he was unhappy. Smiling Maitreya, there's no need for you to stay here. Just find a chance to leave. I'll think of other ways to deal with Xiaoqin. Zhuofifan didn't want to talk to the timid smiling Maitreya, so he ordered calmly. Smiling Maitreya nodded repeatedly. Then he realized that Zhuofifan couldn't see him nodding, so he said hurriedly, Okay, leader Zhuo. I'll listen to you. Zhuofifan nodded and thought for a while. Then he said, Ling you've been in contact with Xiaoqin before, so you should know his weakness. In this situation, we can only rely on you to sacrifice your beauty and see if you can get some spiritual jades from Xiaoqin. Okay, I'll try my best. Ling said expressionlessly. She had already guessed that Zhuofifan was up to no good and only used her as a tool. Fortunately, Xiaoqin was not a bad person and treated her very well, so she didn't resist and agreed. Well, that's all for now. Contact me when there's any progress. Zhuofifan nodded and hung up the phone. Ling put away her phone and looked at smiling Maitreya, who was still frightened and lying on the ground. She frowned and sighed, Maitreya, let's go to see Xiaoqin first. Then I'll lure him and you just need to find a chance to escape. Okay. The smiling Maitreya stood up and quickly picked up the dough from before and kneaded it with all his might. He muttered, Since Hero Xiaoqin likes the knife-shaved noodles I make so much, then I'll make a few bowls first, then we'll send it over together. In this way he won't be so angry. Ling was a little disgusted by smiling Maitreya's flattering look, so she turned around and waited outside the door. While kneading the dough, smiling Maitreya didn't forget to kick his subordinates who were standing dumbly beside him. He said angrily, What are you waiting for? Hurry up and help me make the knife-shaved noodles. Whether or not I can successfully escape from great hero Xiaoqin all depends on this bowl of noodles, understand? After working for a while, the knife-shaved noodles were finally done. The smiling Maitreya and Linger carried the meticulously made noodles to Xiaoqin's room. Holding the tray, smiling Maitreya's hands trembled a little and he felt uneasy. He did not know how to face Xiaoqin this time. Just now he was still showing off in front of him, but in the blink of an eye he became a coward. He hoped that he would show the bearing of a venerable, be magnanimous, and forgive him once. When they arrived at the door, Linger knocked on the door. Hearing Xiaoqin shouting from inside, the two of them pushed the door open and entered. Yo, shaved noodles Methreya, you have a lot of ideas. You even know to assign me a waiter who serves noodles? TSK, not bad looking. I didn't expect you to be so good at being a person. This is much better than those inexplicable cooked wheaten food chefs from before. Seeing Linger walk in with the noodles, Xiaoqian's lips curled up, and he teased her without batting an eyelid. I think that great hero Xiaoqin is not very satisfied with those cooked wheaten food chefs from before, so I specially picked a beautiful waiter to serve you, great hero Xiaoqin. Consider it my small compensation to you. Smiling, Methreya said flatteringly with a smirk on his face. He even deliberately said the word, serve, especially loudly, which was obviously ambiguous. All right, then leave her here. You can leave now, but remember to close the door when you go out. Xiaoqin nodded in satisfaction. He put on a perverted face and kept glancing at Linger. He even waved his hand at smiling Methreya to dismiss him. Ahem. Linger put the noodles on the table. When she turned around and saw that Xiaoqin was almost drooling, she pretended to glare at him unhappily and snorted softly with pursed lips. I'll leave now. Great hero Xiaoqin, please take your time to enjoy. Smiling Methreya was overjoyed. He thought that Xiaoqin must have been driven by lust and had no time to care about his rudeness. Thus he quickly turned around and ran out, not forgetting to close the door tightly before he left. After releasing his divine sense and sensing that smiling Methreya did not stay nearby to eavesdrop but went straight to his residence, Xiaoqin returned to his serious look. He pulled Linger over and asked, I finally have time to ask you, why did you come to Greenstone sect? Did Zhuo make things difficult for you after you took the forging materials last time? Zhuo didn't make things difficult for me, but... Linger did not struggle and obediently let herself be held by Xiaoqin. She said helplessly, but my master has been locked up. Zhuo ordered me to seduce you and then take the opportunity to steal the spiritual jades of Greenstone sect. He said that as long as I can successfully complete the task, he will consider letting my master out. Linger was also at wit's end. If she could not achieve her goal, being scolded after returning to the sect was a small matter. The main thing was that Grandma Nanshan would be locked up forever and could not get out. Now that she finally had the chance to be alone with Xiaoqin, Linger might as well tell him everything. Anyway, the two of them were already the most intimate of relationships, so there was nothing for her to be guarded against. Zhuo this idiot is quite despicable. He actually used Grandma Nanshan to threaten you. He is not a master at all. Xiaoqin secretly cursed Zhuo for being such a jerk. He must find an opportunity to kill him and then save Grandma Nanshan. Linger sighed and looked helplessly at Xiaoqin. Xiaoqin, what should I do? I don't want anything to happen to my master, but I don't want to make things difficult for you either. I've been in a dilemma along the way. Xiaoqin fell silent for a while and asked, what's the cultivation level of that idiot Zhuo? The sect leader is already at the great completion stage of level 10 Martial Honorable and his protectors are at the peak of level 8 Martial Honorable. If I want to approach him recklessly, I'm afraid it won't be easy. Linger could read Xiaoqian's thoughts and said with a bitter smile, damn, that's quite high. Xiaoqian's expression froze and the corner of his mouth twitched. It seemed that he would not be able to kill him for the time being. Linger shook her head and did not speak. Even if Xiaoqin was at the Martial Honorable rank now, he would not stand a chance against Zhuo. Xiaoqin looked at Linger's bitter expression and thought for a while before saying, indeed, I won't be able to kill him for the time being. How about this? Don't be impatient, I'll help you increase your cultivation level first. As for saving Grandma Nanshan, we can only think about it at length. However, since she is useful to Zhuo, I don't think her life will be in danger for the time being. There's no need to worry too much. You'll help me increase my cultivation level? How do I do that? Linger blinked and asked curiously. She had always been cultivating to increase her cultivation level. She had never heard of any other way to increase her cultivation level. Chapter 984. It's very simple. We just need to perform dual cultivation. I'll tell you what to do later. Follow me. Xiaoqin took Linger's hand and led her to the bed. Then he explained the steps of dual cultivation to her. In the beginning, Linger was still a little shy. Although she and Xiao Chen had sex, they hadn't seen each other for a long time, so she was still a little shy. She had been very careful and not used to it. Xiao Chen smiled and didn't expose her. Instead, he took the initiative to chat with Linger. On the one hand, he wanted to distract her and make her more relaxed. On the other hand, he wanted to know why Zhuofifen needed so many spirit jades. However, what surprised Xiao Chen was that Linger didn't know anything about the inside story of the spirit jades. After thinking for a while, Xiao Chen guessed that the Yin Yun sect deliberately hid the truth from her and Grandma Nanshan in order not to alert the enemy. They were doing everything behind their backs. Guessing this, Xiao Chen didn't ask any more questions. Seeing that Linger's mood had relaxed, he began to concentrate on the dual cultivation. Smiling Mithriya crawled back to his residence, packed his luggage, called his disciples, and left the Green Rock sect quietly in the dark. Since Linger had helped Xiao Chen this time, Smiling Mithriya was relieved. When Xiao Chen saw Linger, it was as if he had been holding back his hunger for several years. He didn't know what the girls around him were. Were they all his sisters? However, Smiling Mithriya was too lazy to think so much. Anyway, Xiao Chen and Linger must be doing that, so they didn't have the time to care about him. So he took his disciples and directly escaped from the main gate, running to the foot of the mountain. Finally, they arrived at the foot of Green Rock Mountain. Seeing the minibus parked on the side, Smiling Mithriya took a long breath. He was glad that he had finally succeeded in escaping from Xiao Chen's clutches. In the future, even if he had 800 times more courage, he would never want to meet Xiao Chen again. Oh, you're running pretty fast, huh? If I didn't have my flying sword, I'm afraid this young master wouldn't be able to catch up to you. Smiling Mithriya was still secretly rejoicing. Unexpectedly, a nightmarish voice suddenly sounded. Xiao Chen directly descended from the sky and grabbed his neck. His fingers squeezed slightly. Ah, it hurts so much. Cough cough. Great hero Xiao Chen, please spare my life. I just brought my men out to hunt some wild animals, look at the scenery, breathe in the fresh air, and move my muscles. I didn't want to run away. The Smiling Mithriya screamed and was scared out of his wits. He tried to explain. While explaining, the Smiling Mithriya grimaced in pain. Xiao Chen's hand was like an iron hoop that was strangling his neck. He felt that if he used a little more strength, his cervical vertebrae would be broken. Xiao Chen slightly loosened his grip, but he still firmly grabbed the Smiling Mithriya's neck. After promoting Ling to the level of a martial general through dual cultivation, he let her rest in the room for a while. He planned to find the Smiling Mithriya for information, but he found that the kid had slipped away. Xiao Chen quickly rode on his flying sword and chased after him. In the end, he saw the Smiling Mithriya and his men resting at the foot of the mountain. He did not waste any time and directly went up to him to grab his neck. All right, don't play the coward in front of me. Hurry up and tell me why you came to the Greenstone faction, and why does the Yin Yun sect need so many spiritual jades? Xiao Chen was too lazy to talk nonsense with the Smiling Mithriya, so he said directly, maybe I'll let you go because your knife-shaved noodles are delicious. Otherwise, I'll take you to the top of the mountain to enjoy the scenery. Do you believe me? The air at the top of the mountain is very fresh. So, great hero Xiao Chen, I really came here to help Zhuofifen get the spiritual jades. I have no other purpose. As for what the Yin Yun sect needs them for, I really don't know. The Smiling Mithriya said tremblingly. Although he was so scared that he almost wet his pants, he still did not dare to tell the truth, for fear that Zhuofifen would send people to kill him as soon as he returned. Are you sure you don't know? Xiao Chen's tone was dangerous and he squinted his eyes and asked again. The Smiling Mithriya said with a sad face, Great hero Xiao Chen, everything I said is true. Just treat me like a fart and let me go. Motherf *Ker, I think you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin. Xiao Chen snorted coldly, grabbed the Smiling Mithriya and jumped on the flying sword. He flew directly to the sky more than 2,000 meters high and said slowly, Enjoy the scenery here. I'll give you one more chance. If you still refuse to tell me, I'll let you perform a flying noodle shaving in the air. It'll be very spectacular. The Smiling Mithriya was lifted by Xiao Chen, and his feet were in the air. He looked around only to see misty clouds and a dark night sky. He could not see anything else. He was so scared that he screamed and his soul almost flew away. Hurry up. I'll give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2. Xiao Chen began to count. The Smiling Mithriya was about to confess, but on second thought, he knew that Xiao Chen was so eager to know Zhuofifen's purpose that he would not let him go easily. He was just trying to scare him, so he gritted his teeth and said, I really don't know. How could Zhuo tell me so much? I just... Ah. 1-0. Xiao Qin had already lost his patience. Seeing the smiling Mithria still dared to beat around the bush, he directly loosened his hand and threw him straight down from the sky. Help! Help! The smiling Mithria's ears were filled with the whistling sound of the wind. He was immediately frightened and shouted loudly. A friendly reminder. You're still 1,500 meters away from the ground. You'll be able to land smoothly in no time. Please fasten your seatbelt. If you don't, please be prepared to have your face smashed into the ground, Xiao Qin said slowly as he followed the smiling Mithria on his flying sword. Master Xiao Qin, help. Help me. The smiling Mithria danced in the air, trying to catch Xiao Qin's flying sword, but because his hands were too short, he could not reach it. I'll remind you again. You're only 800 meters away from the ground. 700 meters. 600 meters. Xiao Qin picked his ears in boredom. He ignored the smiling Mithria's cry for help and continued counting down. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. I'll tell you everything. Please help me. I promise I won't lie to you anymore, sob sob sob. The smiling Mithria saw the ground getting closer and closer in his eyes. Finally he could not help shouting loudly. His tears and snot were floating in the air. Now he could not care so much. He just wanted to save his life first. That's more like it. What were you doing earlier? Just when the bald head of the smiling Mithria was about to touch the ground, Xiao Qin reached out, grabbed his calf and then threw him to the ground. Chapter 985. The smiling Mithria had not come to himself yet. He was panting in fear. His face was covered with tears and snot, which made him look very embarrassed. Xiao Qin looked at him and said calmly, "Tell me now. If I find out that you still dare to lie, I will take you up there to play flying noodles again for free. But I can't guarantee that I will be able to catch you next time." Zhuo wants those spiritual jades to open the venerable mysterious land of the inner martial arts world. The venerable mysterious land is prepared for martial kings and demon kings to become venerables. Every sect decides how many disciples can enter according to the amount of spiritual jades they contribute. The smiling Mithria did not dare to hesitate. He told Suke everything he knew. "Why did you come to the Green Rock sect to rob the spiritual jades?" Xiao Qin asked coldly. Wiping the tears and snot off his face, the smiling Mithria said cautiously, "The Yinyun sect doesn't have many spiritual jades. They heard that the Green Rock sect has found a spiritual jade mine, so they sent me to rob it? That's all?" Xiao Qin squinted at the smiling Mithria and continued to ask, "Where is the entrance to the venerable mysterious land? How many spiritual jades do I need to pay for one person to enter? Are there any traps or anything like that?" "I really don't know about that. I'm just a small fry in the outer martial arts world. I'm just running errands for Zhuo. I don't have access to the core secrets. Even if I successfully rob the spiritual jades, I won't be able to enter the venerable mysterious land," the smiling Mithria said bitterly. Xiao Qin felt that the smiling Mithria was telling the truth this time. However, he did not let him go immediately. Instead, he remained silent. He suddenly thought of the sky jade mine of the Jia family. Could it be that it was also prepared for the opening of the venerable mysterious land? "Hero Xiao Qin, I beg you to let me off. I was also forced into a corner. Even what I said just now was something that I managed to find out with great difficulty a few days ago." Seeing that Xiao Qin did not say anything, the smiling Mithria's heart was pounding. He felt that this trip was not worth it. Not only did he not get any benefits, but he also almost lost his life. "I believe you. Seeing that your knife-shaved noodles are quite delicious, I won't kill you. In the future, when I become successful and return to the city, you can go sell breakfast with me." Xiao Qin pulled smiling Mithria up, patted him on the shoulder and said with a smile, "You can go now. I'll let you know when my breakfast stall opens for business." All right. Thank you, Hero Xiao Qin, for not killing me. I'll take my leave now." The smiling Mithria was so moved that he almost cried. He nodded repeatedly and thanked Xiao Qin. When he saw that Xiao Qin had no other orders, he ran away with his subordinates. After returning to the place where the minibus was parked, smiling Mithria called Zhuo and reported the current situation to him. He told Zhuo that Linger had hooked up with Xiao Qin, but they had just succeeded, so they didn't know whether it would work or not. Zhuo had already escaped, so he could only rely on her. In the end, smiling Mithria naturally concealed the matter of informant. His life had just been saved, so if he told Zhuo about it, he would be in danger again. Zhuo understood the situation, but he didn't say anything special. He just promised to give smiling Mithria some compensation and then hung up the phone. First, since smiling Mithria had escaped, Zhuo couldn't talk to him anymore. Second, Zhuo didn't have much hope for Linger. Although the forging materials he got before were reliable, the spiritual jades didn't belong to Xiao Qin, but to Green Rock faction, so it would be difficult to get them. After putting down the phone, Zhuo was extremely upset. This time he really suffered a double loss. He didn't get the spiritual jades, but he also lost 3 masters. Xiao Qin let smiling Mithria go and returned to Green Rock faction. When he opened the door, Linger was already dressed and sitting there. Seeing Xiao Qin coming back, she quickly stood up with a blush on her cheeks and whispered, "You're back? I just adjusted my breath and found that I've been promoted to a general. What the hell is going on?" Hehe, this is the benefit of dual cultivation. In the future, I will often take you to practice with me, and your strength will also rise. Xiao Qin laughed, took her hand and walked out. "Let's go, I'll introduce you to the others and they will all be your friends in the future." Xiao Qin dragged Linger to the guest room. As expected, other than Jia Muzin who was not present, the other 3 ladies were chatting away. Although their ways of doing things were very different, they were all young ladies in their teens and 20s, so they got along very well when they chatted. "You haven't slept yet, have you? Let me introduce you, this is Miss Linger of the Yinyan faction. I met her during the process of carrying out the task at that time." Xiao Qin walked over casually, introduced Linger, and then briefly described the process of meeting her. All the girls looked at Linger curiously. Although Xiao Qin didn't explain the situation in detail at this time, Linger's face was blushing, so their relationship was probably not ordinary. The first time she saw Linger, Ling Qianxue was stunned. She felt so familiar. She looked so similar to her younger sister Qianxue from Japan. Linger didn't notice the change in Ling Qianxue. She just obediently followed beside Xiao Qin, and politely greeted everyone. Cheng Minjing secretly frowned. She first kindly introduced herself to Linger, and then when she wasn't paying attention, she unhappily glared at Xiao Qin. Due to the large number of people present, she didn't scold Xiao Qin. She more or less gave him some face or else she would seem too petty. Although Cheng Minjing was unhappy, she endured it. After all, at the end of the day, it was because she didn't see that Xiao Qin had potential. If she had been with him when he was still a useless person, then there probably wouldn't have been such a mess later on. Now she could only accept it. Cheng Minjing learned to comfort herself. After all, Xiao Qin wasn't the kind of playboy who would deliberately have a foot in 2 boats. After all, the women who followed him didn't have bad intentions, so it was more or less understandable. He also wouldn't dump them after he was done with them. Compared to those scumbags, he was much better. Haha, that's great. Sister Sour Sour has finally met someone younger than me. Tian Sour shook Linger's hand in high spirits, and proudly patted her shoulder. "You're Linger, right? Remember, from now on, I'm the first branch." "Oh no, the 3rd branch. That doesn't seem right. Anyway, I'm Auntie X and your X1's little wife. You have to listen to me, okay?" Tian Sour originally wanted to say the 1st branch, but seeing that Cheng Minjing was standing at the side, he quickly changed his words. Linger opened her mouth but didn't say anything for a long time. She really didn't know what to say. Chapter 986. Linger, ignore that greedy girl. She just likes to take advantage of you verbally. She doesn't have any bad intentions. Ling Qianxue stood up and walked over to hold Linger's hand. She smiled and said, "Hello, my name is Ling Qianxue. Have you heard of my name before?" Just now Ling Qianxue had been observing Linger's appearance. The more she looked, the more familiar she felt. Although Linger's appearance and temperament were very different from her sister Qianxue, Ling Qianxue could still find similarities between them. "Hello, Ling Qianxue." Linger repeated Ling Qianxue's name. She felt as if she had heard it somewhere before, but she couldn't remember. She could only shake her head helplessly. "Sorry, I don't remember. Then do you know your own background?" Ling Qianxue saw that Linger was a little surprised and said in a gentle tone, "Don't think too much. Since you are Xiao Chen's friend, you are also our friend. I might know some things about your background." "Ah, really?" Linger was shocked. She turned to look at Xiao Chen for help. When she saw Xiao Chen nod, she gathered her courage and said, "Actually, I don't know much about my background. I only know that I have a grandfather who works in a secret organization. I also have a sister. As for the rest, I don't know. This information was all told to her by Linger's master, Granny Nanshan. However, she had only unintentionally revealed some information and didn't go into detail. Thus Linger didn't know much. Ling Qianxue was shocked. She knew that she had found the right person this time. Linger was the Japanese girl that was switched by the Sakura group. At this moment, everyone's hearts were filled with mixed feelings. They didn't expect to find the person that everyone had been guessing for so long was Linger. You guys, what's wrong? Is there a problem with my background? Linger realized that everyone was silent and had different expressions. She felt a little uneasy. Let me explain. Your grandfather is called Ling Tian, but in reality he isn't your biological grandfather. Your real identity is Japanese. Your parents are researchers working for the Sakura group. You do have a sister, but her name is Ling Qianxue. Ling Qianxue tried to explain as simply as possible. What do you mean? Ling was confused by the huge amount of information. Actually, I'm Ling Tian's granddaughter. However, when I was young I was sent to the Yin Yun sect. You and I were secretly swapped by the Cherry Blossom group. You went to the Yin Yun sect and became their disciple, while I was sent to Japan, Ling Qianxue explained patiently. How is this possible? Ling mumbled to herself for a while before asking suspiciously, then why are you also called by this name? You and my sister have the same name? Or are you my sister? Ling Qianxue said, this is another matter. At that time, in order to protect Qianxue, I replaced her and joined the Sakura group, so I used her name. But I've never heard of this at all. Ling was really confused this time. Why did the Sakura group do this? What's in it for them? Ling Qianxue said calmly, the Sakura group wanted to plant a chess piece in the sects of the inner martial arts world. It will definitely be useful in the future. Ling didn't say anything for a long time. She was really too shocked. She had been cultivating in the Yin Yun sect since she was young and then became a disciple of Granny Nanshan. She originally didn't know much about her background. Now that such a complicated relationship had suddenly appeared, she really couldn't digest it for a while. However, looking at Ling Qianxue's expression, it didn't seem like she was lying, so she didn't say anything for a long time. You don't have to be too nervous. We can go do a DNA test. You'll understand when the time comes. Ling Qianxue felt that Linger's shocked reaction was very normal. When Yorishima Kikuo told her about her true identity, she also found it hard to accept. Ling Qianxue didn't lie. Her DNA test was personally done by Chief Ling, and it was repeatedly tested several times. There's definitely no mistake. Xiaoqun gently patted Linger's shoulder and comforted her softly. After a while Ling finally calmed down a little and asked, so, my biological sister is actually that island country's Ling Qianxue? Yes, but I heard that she also came to the Dixia kingdom. I don't know where she is now. Ling Qianxue nodded and said, I don't know if you've heard of Ling Qianyu's name. Actually, I'm her biological sister. Ling Qianyu? I've heard Granny mention her before. Ling sighed melancholically. Unfortunately, I've only heard of her and have never met her. There's a chance I really want to meet both of them. Ling never thought that her life would be so complicated. If she didn't meet Xiaoqun and Ling Qianxue, she would probably be kept in the dark for the rest of her life. Actually, just hearing Ling Qianxue's words, Ling still found it a little hard to accept. However, she trusted Xiaoqun. If Xiaoqun said it was like this, then it must be like this. Thus, Linger's heart was slightly shaken. She really wanted to meet her biological sister Ling Qianxue and fake sister Ling Qianyu as soon as possible. It would be best if she could find Ling Tian as well. Only then would she be able to understand everything. You don't have to be too anxious. Since the Sakura group has made such an arrangement, they must have a backup plan. Let's be a little more patient. It's better to stay calm and deal with all the changes. Xiaoqun thought for a while and spoke up to stop Ling. It wasn't that he didn't want Ling to reunite with her family as soon as possible, but he felt that there was something strange about this matter. That group of people from the Sakura group, with Yorishima Kikuo as an example, although they weren't very strong, they were good at scheming and scheming. Xiaoqun felt that if they acted rashly, it might have the opposite effect. They might as well wait for them to find Ling and walk into the trap of their own accord. It wouldn't be too late to find out their motive then. All right, I'll listen to you. Linger knew what Xiaoqun meant, so she immediately agreed. However, she was still at a loss for what to do in the face of such a sudden change. She sat there and chatted idly. There were a few times when she was lost in thought. She didn't even respond when others called her. Seeing that Ling'er was distracted, Xiaoqun stopped chatting and called out to the girls to cultivate. Due to Ling'er's addition, the original 4th cultivator of true virtue had been promoted to 5th cultivator of true virtue. The bed in the room wasn't big enough, so they sat on the floor and cultivated without any hindrance. After cultivating for half the night, everyone stopped to rest. After checking their cultivation, they discovered that the 4 girls were advancing at an extremely fast speed. However, Xiaoqun was very upset because his own cultivation speed had slowed down again. Chapter 987. He pondered for a moment and realized that there seemed to be only one reason. The first time a girl used dual cultivation, they would level up faster. After that, the effect would not be as obvious. What was going on? Unable to think of an answer, Xiaoqun gave up. Seeing that Ling'er was still in a daze, he gave Ling Qinxue a look and pulled her over for a hug. Ling Qinxue understood Xiaoqun's look. At first she was a little embarrassed, but seeing Ling'er's pitiful look, she felt a little sorry for her and moved closer. The Ling sisters, who had a complicated relationship, were a little shy at first, but then they relaxed and the room was full of charm. Cheng Minjing originally planned to meditate at the side, but after listening for a while, she finally could not take it anymore. She pulled Tian Souring, whose face was as red as an apple, put on their clothes and went out for some fresh air. Along the way, Cheng Minjing pouted and kept kicking the stones on the ground with her head down. She kept humming like a little pig. Sister Minjing, just now, why didn't you join in? Don't you like to do that with Xiaoqun? Tian Souring couldn't help but ask after enduring for a while. She was a little depressed. Just now she was teased by Xiaoqun and the Ling sisters. She wanted to take the opportunity to join in, but just as she was about to pounce on him, Cheng Minjing pulled her away. "TSK, I don't want that. If you want to join, then join." "What a mess, what's this?" Cheng Minjing glared at Tian Souring. It wasn't that she didn't want something to happen with Xiaoqun, but she couldn't let go in front of so many people. She felt that she was different from others. She was Xiaoqun's official fiancée. Even if she gave herself up, it had to be under the premise that the two of them were in a romantic atmosphere. How could she roll in the sheets with a bunch of people? Really? Can Sister Souring go? Tian Suruan immediately stopped and blurted out in surprise. He secretly licked his lips and wanted to turn around and run back, but he felt a little conflicted. In fact, apart from watching a few movies, she had no experience in this aspect. However, in the past she had pretended to know everything in front of Xiaoqun. If she went just like that, what if Xiaoqun laughed at her? Looking at Tian Suruan's surprised and excited look, Cheng Minjing, who was originally angry, was amused. She rolled her eyes at her and said, "If you want to go, then go. Why are you asking me? Anyway, I'm not going." This. Tian Wangchuan struggled in his heart. He wanted to go, but he was too embarrassed to do so. He paced in place for more than 30 times and hesitated for a long time. In the end, he still didn't take that step. At the side, Cheng Minjing could see that Tian Wangchuan was similar to herself. They were both cowards who had evil intentions but no guts. She couldn't help but feel angry and amused. She simply dragged her to continue walking around the Green Rock sect. The next morning, Xiaoqun went to find Gu Chongyi and Jing Xinxiang in high spirits to say goodbye. He and his group had rested in the Green Rock sect for some time and the problems had been solved. He also wanted to go to the Heavenly Jade Mine as soon as possible. When saying goodbye, Xiaoqun specially asked Jing Xinxiang and Gu Chongyi. In the end, both of them didn't know where the entrance to the inner martial arts world was. However, Xiaoqun didn't take it to heart. In any case, Jia Muzin and Ling both came from the inner martial arts world. They definitely knew the way. Therefore, he left the Green Rock sect confidently and set off for the inner martial arts world according to Jia Muzin's directions. After crossing the Green Rock Mountain, the road ahead gradually became more difficult to walk. The group walked for 2 days, passed through a primeval forest, and finally arrived at a valley. The valley was shrouded in thick fog for a long time. The satellite map couldn't detect the environment here at all. After a few steps, they would be surrounded by fog. Even if they held hands, they couldn't see each other clearly. There was no signal on their mobile phones, so the visibility was extremely low. Xiaoqun and Cheng Minjing were fine with it. Both of them were cultivators. As long as they released their divine sense, they would be able to see everything clearly. However, it was not the case for the others. They could only be careful and walk on the mountain path where the visibility was less than 3 meters like blind people. There were a few times when Tian Wangchuan missed a step and almost fell. Fortunately, Xiaochen was quick to catch her. "Oh my, what the hell is this place? Sister Wangchuan's legs are about to break from walking. How much longer will it take to reach the inner martial arts world?" Tian Wangchuan couldn't help but complain after she slipped again. Although her strength had improved after this period of dual cultivation and she was no longer the rookie martial artist level 1, she couldn't keep up with the stamina of Xiao Chen and the others. In this kind of environment she didn't dare to go on a rampage. She had long been stifled. "Everyone take a break and eat something to replenish your energy." Xiao Chen squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. He discovered that there were 2 forks in the road ahead. He didn't know which one to take, so he turned around and asked Jia Musen, "Musen, take a look. There are 2 roads over there. Which one leads to the Jia clan?" Jia Musen took 2 steps forward and looked carefully. He was a little dumbfounded. He scratched his head and said, "I don't know. Previously when I came out I was accompanied by an elder. However, when I wanted to go back in I didn't know how to go. Moreover, I've been living in the secular world all these years. I've never thought of returning to the Jia clan, so my memory is even more unclear." "Is that so? It's okay. Fortunately, I brought a substitute." Xiaochen didn't care too much. He gestured to Ling and gave her an introduction. "Student Ling, please make your entrance." Dang 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 dang. Since Ling had been to the secular world several times, she definitely knew the way. Xiaochen felt that his decision to bring Ling along was very wise. That our cloud-attracting sect doesn't enter the inner martial arts world from here. We have a special passage for the inner martial arts world. We go in and out by sea," Ling said weakly as she blinked her eyes. Every time she came out of the inner martial arts world, she would follow Granny Nanshan or the martial uncles from the sect on a boat. She had never traveled by land. Previously, she thought that Xiaochen knew the way, so she followed him obediently. She didn't expect him to have designs on her. "Then how far will it take if we go back the way we came and change to the sea?" Xiaochen was stunned. He originally thought that with 2 people from the inner martial arts world leading the way it would be foolproof. He didn't expect it to be so troublesome. What a scam. "The distance isn't a problem. The main problem is that we don't have a boat," Ling said innocently. "Moreover, even if we get a boat, I don't know where to go." Linger's cheeks were a little red. When they took the boat out of the inner martial arts world, she was focused on cultivating and didn't pay attention to the direction the boat was going. Therefore she was also confused at this time. Xiaochen was speechless. He looked at the 2 forks in the road and was worried. Although he could see the situation behind the fog with his divine sense, he didn't dare to walk around recklessly. If he led so many people and went to the wrong place, it would be a big problem. Chapter 988. After thinking for a long time, Xiaochen decided to set up camp in the same place. Since this was the only way to the inner martial arts world, there must be people going in and out of the inner martial arts world passing by. He could just ask them when the time came. After the plan was made, Xiaochen took Jia Musen to collect some wood and temporarily built 2 simple wooden houses by the roadside. Cheng Menjing took the others to collect firewood and some game as ingredients for dinner. They settled down in front of the fork in the road. Although the valley was very foggy, there were no wild beasts or strange insects. The temperature was very suitable. They lived a happy and harmonious life. The only regret was that Jia Musen was there. Xiaochen was embarrassed to let him stay in a house alone, so he had to stay with him. The girls stayed in another house, which was not convenient for double cultivation. Just like that, they waited for about 2 days. Finally, a figure pushed through the layers of fog and came over. At this moment, Xiaochen and the others were chatting aimlessly outside the wooden house when they saw 3 men dressed like martial artists walking over. The young man in the lead was a little surprised to see Xiaochen and the others. He did not expect that someone would arrive earlier than them. The young man glanced at Xiaochen and the others, took a few steps forward and asked calmly, "Little brother, have you also received the joint invitation from the inner martial arts world families to participate in the inner martial arts world trial?" Xiaochen was stunned. The inner martial arts world trial? What was that? Turning his head to glance at Jia Musen and Linger, Xiaochen wanted to ask them, but they were also confused. Seeing this, Xiaochen knew that he could not count on them, so he answered calmly, Well, We are from the Green Rock sect, but I only know that there is such a thing. I don't know the content of the trial. Do you know what we are going to do? While probing ambiguously, Xiaoqin thought quickly. The first thing he thought of was that it must be related to the venerable secret realm. But, wasn't this place a secret? Was it open to the outside martial arts world? So it's a friend from Green Rock faction. In fact, it's a trial jointly organized by a few big families in the inner martial arts world. Through the Warriors Guild, they've sent out an invitation to the outside world to recruit cultivators from the outer martial arts world and the secular world. They're asking everyone to go to the trial's mine to collect some spirit jades. Then, based on the number of spirit jades collected, after the trial is completed, they can use it to exchange for generous rewards. The young man explained the contents of the trial. However, he was a little puzzled. Since these people were from the Green Rock faction, how could they not know the contents of the trial? However, when he thought about it, the Green Rock sect was just a small sect. It was normal for them to not be well informed. I see. Xiaoqin was a little surprised, but on the surface he still smiled and teased. I wonder which family has the courage to join hands to organize such a grand trial. What other families could there be? Isn't it just the Jia clan, the Tang clan and the Yu clan? I heard that this trial was initiated by the Jia clan. Big families are really bold. It's only been a few days and there are already hundreds of people signing up. The young man sighed sincerely. The eyes of Cheng Menjing, Ling Chenxue, and the others quietly drifted towards Jianghu. They saw that his face was as red as if it had been burned by fire. He cursed softly, too despicable. They don't even let the cultivators of the secular world go. How could Jianghu still not understand when he had already said this much? This was because the Tianyu mine did not have enough manpower to mine, and they were frantically looking for workers to do hard labor. They even called it a trial mission, but in fact it was cheap labor. Xiaoqin could tell that Jianghu was a little embarrassed. He reached out and patted Jianghu's shoulder to comfort him. He said to the young man, "That's right. Our sect leader said the same thing. The few of you are going to the Heavenly Jade Mine, right?" "Yes. This is the place. So you guys know. You made me waste so much effort to explain." "Really?" The young man was a little unhappy. What kind of person was this, wasting his saliva? In fact, I came in a hurry. I only remembered that I was going to the Tianyu mine. I didn't have time to listen to the specific details, so I left in a hurry. When I remembered, I was too embarrassed to go back and ask the sect leader. "Thank you, brother." Xiaoqin laughed a few times and pretended to be embarrassed. The young man did not take it to heart. He casually made a sound of agreement. He thought that this person was too muddle-headed. He dared to participate in the trial without asking clearly about the situation. He was not afraid of death. "Since we are going the same way, let's go together?" Xiaoqin asked. Now that there was someone who knew the situation, as long as he followed him, he could enter the inner martial arts world. "Well, okay." The young man nodded absent-mindedly. Seeing Xiaoqin's slow-witted look, he guessed that he was a rather careless and impatient person, so he didn't take it too seriously. He found a relatively clean rock by the side of the road and sat down. Xiaoqin took a few steps forward with the others in high spirits. When he turned his head, he found that the three people did not follow him at all. They were sitting on the side and resting. Xiaoqin was a little puzzled. He turned his head and asked, "Why don't you go? It's still early. We should hurry on our way." "What way?" "Just gather here. Then wait for the people of the inner martial arts world to come out and support us." The young man looked at Xiaoqin in surprise. He felt that this guy was a little stupid. They had already arrived at the gathering place. Where was he going? This person's brain was too bad. When they arrived at the inner martial arts world, they should go their own way, so that they would not be dragged down again. Look at my memory." Xiaoqin slapped his forehead and hurriedly walked back with a thick face. He looked around awkwardly and his forehead was a little sweaty. Cheng Menjing rolled her eyes at Xiaoqin. This guy usually liked to play tricks and boasted that his intelligence was unparalleled. She did not expect that there would be a day when he would fail miserably in an easy task. Fortunately, the other party did not see through it. Otherwise, if he was really suspected, he would be exposed with just a few words. Ling Chenxue, Tian Suruan, and Jianghu looked at each other. Everyone's facial expressions were a little unnatural. They could not help but want to laugh, but they did not dare to really laugh. Their faces were almost twisted from holding back their laughter. The young man did not notice. He had already turned his face away, no longer paying attention to Xiaoqin. Anyway, he had made up his mind not to team up with this guy, so he did not want to see him act stupid anymore. Time passed quickly and more people came from all over the place to gather. The wooden houses that imitated Xiao Chen's construction almost filled the entire valley. Among the people who arrived, Xiao Chen did not expect to see many familiar figures who had participated in the Spring Festival auction. Among them were the horse-faced cultivator, the black-cloaked man, the arrogant young master, the bearded man, and others. There were also people from the Valley of 10,000 Medicine. However, Xiao Chen did not mind. After all, he did not disguise himself. At that time, he appeared at the auction as Yang Jianan, so these people did not recognize his current appearance. Instead, those who were familiar with each other greeted each other, and it was considered that they had met. Chapter 989. Although the valley was full of people, they did not socialize much. They gathered in twos and threes, occupying a space and whispering to the people of their respective sections. After all, the purpose of this trial was to collect spiritual jades, so there was no need to be too polite. When the time came, someone might stab them in the back. Even if they were familiar with each other, there was no need. On the third day, when the valley was almost full, a young man finally walked out of the fog on the other side of the fork in the road. Those with sharp eyes rushed forward and surrounded the young man. Those who were a step too late could only resentfully wait on the periphery. Xiao Chen and the rest continued to lazily stay where they were without moving. After all, the valley was only so big. As long as that young man spoke in a normal voice, everyone would be able to hear him. There was no need for them to sharpen their heads and drill their way in. The young man stood on a stone and glanced at the crowd condescendingly. With an arrogant expression, he shouted loudly, "Line up, line up. What kind of mess is this? If you want to go in, obediently follow the order. Why do you have no manners at all?" The people around did not dare to be negligent and quickly began to line up. There were many pushing and shoving and threatening to cut the line. However, after all, everyone was considered a member of the outer Wuling, so they did not fight too much. They still lined up in a very short time. Naturally, Xiao Chen and the others stood at the back. The young man looked around and curled the corner of his mouth. He took out a form from his bosom and began to record the names of the people participating in the trial one by one. As he wrote down, he kept shouting, "You should all know the rules. If anyone dares to fight privately before the trial starts, they will be directly disqualified. I'll remember those few just now. All of you pay attention. When you go to the inner Wuling, all of you better behave. Don't look at what you shouldn't see and don't gossip about what you shouldn't say. Otherwise, apart from being disqualified and driven out, the sect you belong to will be severely punished. I think you don't want to shame your sect, right?" Everyone was still counting on this young man to lead the way for them, so they all agreed obediently. No one dared to oppose him. If they offended him, wouldn't it be too shameful to be driven back without even being able to enter the inner martial arts world? After he finished registering the silent Xiao Chen's group, the young man stuffed the form into his bosom and jumped down from the rock. He said very arrogantly, "All right, stop dawdling, follow me." After he finished speaking, he walked towards one of the forked roads. "Who is this person? Do you know him? He looks quite arrogant." Xiao Chen glanced at the young man and deliberately lagged behind as he asked Jianghu. "I know him, but he's not from our family. He's a third-generation descendant of the Tang family's patriarch. His name is Tang Qianqi." Jianghu also lowered his voice and said disdainfully, "He's just an errand boy. Don't be fooled by his arrogance. He's actually a bastard. His status isn't much higher than mine." Jianghu never had a good impression of this kind of person, so his evaluation was merciless. "Oh, but he's responsible for registering and guiding people into the inner martial world. It can be considered a heavy responsibility, right? It seems that this guy is quite popular in the Tang family. Otherwise they wouldn't have let him come." Xiao Chen nodded. He didn't care much about Tang Qianqi's arrogant attitude. He was just a follower, nothing more. Arguing with him would only lower his status. However, he still felt strange in his heart. He didn't know why the Tang family would send such a fool to lead the way for everyone. Tisk, isn't it because he relied on Tang Qianling, the heir of the Tang family? He hugged someone's thigh and became their lackey. He felt that he had a backer, so he's very proud and looks down on us. Jianghu shrugged and said with a look of disdain, "Jia Huiyan also asked me to follow him, but I couldn't be bothered with him. I don't have any dignity." TSK, you can't say that. If you really followed Jia Huiyan, maybe the one leading the way here today would be you." "Ah." Xiao Qin couldn't help but make fun of him. Those guys behind you, are you not taking my words seriously or what? I told you not to gossip, but you're still talking nonsense. Behave yourselves. Do you believe that I'll chase you all away if you keep making noise? Tang Qianqi, who was leading the way, pricked his ears and heard Xiao Chen's laughter. He immediately turned around and pointed his finger at Tang Qianqi and scolded him. Xiao Chen rolled his eyes at the sky. He was speechless. His voice wasn't that loud either. Tang Qianqi could actually hear him. It seemed that this kid's cultivation was not low. Could it be that he had a pair of clairvoyant ears? Jianghu patted Xiao Chen's shoulder and smiled helplessly at him. The two of them stopped chatting and continued to follow the group forward. Everyone followed Tang Qianqi. They walked here and there in the fog. After walking for about half an hour, Tang Qianqi suddenly stopped. There were two towering trees not far away. Between the two trees, there was a strange green light that was constantly surging out. It was obviously different from the surrounding environment. Xiao Chen quietly released his divine sense. He saw a huge teleportation formation on the ground in front of him. The green light was emitted by the formation. Seeing this formation, Xiao Chen was a little surprised. Although he had seen a teleportation formation before, it was the first time he had seen such a big one. Okay, we're here. Tang Qianqi turned around and put down the bag that he had been carrying on his back from the beginning. He said, "Now I'll start giving out the trial taker's tokens. This token will be your only identification in the inner martial arts world. If you want to enter and exit the inner martial arts world, you must use the token. If anyone loses it, come to me for a replacement. The handling fee is 100 million. With a clattering sound, Tang Qianqi took out a pile of ebony tokens from his backpack. These tokens all had a faint cyan glow similar to the color of the magic circle. Other than that, there was nothing special about them. 100 million. Isn't this too expensive? Is this a robbery? That's right. Such a broken piece of wood. You actually have to spend money to buy it? What a scam. This number was too shocking. Many people couldn't help but start to complain. Although everyone felt that they were cautious and wouldn't easily lose the token, what if they accidentally broke it or someone stole it? Wouldn't they have wasted 100 million? All of you shut up. Hearing the noise of the crowd, Tang Qianqi frowned and said in a lukewarm tone, "If anyone doesn't want to participate, you can leave now. But I'll say the ugly words first. I don't have time to send out timid people like you. If you think you're capable, you can try and see if you can walk out of this forest." Chapter 990. Hearing this, everyone immediately quieted down. Although they were a little unhappy and felt that they had been cheated by Tang Qianqi, they dared not say anything. After all, they really did not have the confidence to escape from the fog. When they were brought here by Tang Qianqi, they could not even see their fingers in front of them. Who would remember the route? Even if they remembered, what if there were other dangers in this forest? Since there are no objections, then come and get your token. Seeing that everyone was silent, many people began to gather here. Tang Qianqi said proudly, "That's more like it. I have just registered your names. I will report one, you come and get one. You can't get it on someone else's behalf or falsely." After that, Tang Qianqi took out the registration form and began to report the names. He distributed the ebony token one by one and shouted as he distributed it, "Let me tell you one more thing. Remember, the token can only be used once. After you enter the inner martial arts world, it will lose its effect. If you want to come out again, you must first confirm with the organizer and then come to me to activate the token. However, it will cost 50 million for each activation." What the F***CK? This kid is obviously cheating money. No wonder his name has the word money in it. Is the Tang family relying on this to get rich? Xiao Chen muttered. Although he was a little reluctant, the situation was not in his favor. He had no choice but to go over and collect a token. There is no other way. When the time comes, if you want to come out, I will try to see if I can secretly activate it for you through my connections. Otherwise, he will collect a sum of money for nothing. Jianghu responded and also went forward to get the token. Xiao Chen held the ebony token in his hand and carefully looked at it. He found that apart from the green light it emitted, there was a string of numbers engraved on the front of the token. Other than that, there was no other mark. At this time, Jianghu had already returned. Looking at the number on the token, he was speechless and said, "Psi 54044, it is quite unlucky. Xiao Chen, what is your number?" 54088, haha, I am your father. This guy gave me his father's token. Could it be that he's hinting that I should exercise my father's authority and teach him a lesson? Xiaoqin laughed and teased. Aya, Sister Sour's number isn't good either. Menjing Ling, Qianxue your numbers? Tian Sour, who was the last to receive his token, had just returned. When he saw the token in his hand, he was about to ask for the others' numbers when he was interrupted by Tang Qianqi. Everyone, have you gotten your tokens? All of you, stand in that circle and get ready to enter the inner martial arts world. Tang Qianqi shouted at the top of his lungs. Tian Soran pouted helplessly. He had no choice but to dismiss the idea of asking for the number. Holding the token, he walked into the circle with Xiao Chen and the others. As soon as everyone stepped into the circle, they felt a flash of green light, and then everything went black. Not long after, the surroundings became bright again. However, they were no longer in the forest. Obviously, they had been transported to another place. The surroundings were surrounded by verdant hills and clear waters. It was completely different from the thick and foggy forest outside. It was unknown whether it was a parallel space of another dimension or a paradise. Xiaoqin glanced around and found that the inner martial arts world was really a good place. The temperature was suitable and the spiritual qi was abundant. It was much better than the secular world. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. No wonder there were so many people with the strength of King Wu or Demon Lord in this place. This place was naturally suitable for cultivators to exist. After coming back to his senses, Xiaoqin looked down at the token in his hand and found that it had become an ordinary piece of wood. It was no longer emitting that kind of green light. Obviously, as Tang Qianqi had said, this ebony token could only be used once. If he wanted to use it again, he would probably have to inject energy or use a special method to activate it. Everyone was curious and excited to enter the inner martial arts world. They followed Tang Qianqi all the way, shuttling through strange places. 3 days later, they finally arrived at a town and were arranged to stay in an inn. Tang Qianqi arranged a place for them to stay, told everyone to wait here for notification, and then disappeared. Tang Qianqi arranged for Xiao Chen's group to stay in the 2 largest luxurious rooms in the inn. After all, they had the largest number of people. Tang Qianqi also attached more importance to them. Anyway, they were cannon fodder labor. Of course, the more people, the better. Therefore, he simply gave them the best treatment. Xiao Chen and the others naturally didn't refuse. After arranging their luggage in the room, they went to the hall on the first floor of the inn ready to eat. However, as soon as they sat down, they were stared at by another group of people sitting in the corner. Brothers, look. The girls at that table are not bad. There are a lot of them and they are of high quality. Moreover, each of them is dripping water. Should we go and play with them? A big man with a dark face and sideburns poured wine into his mouth. His wretched eyes glanced at Tian Wangchuan and Ling He. He couldn't wait to rush over and do something to them. Old hey, you don't say. Those girls are really of the highest quality. Especially that girl in tight clothes. Just her long legs and perky but alone, tiske, I can play with her for a year. A man with a crew cut sitting next to the bearded man stared at Ling Qianxue. He had a lewd and evil smile on his face, and his saliva almost dripped down. I like the one sitting next to the tight clothes. She looks like the daughter of a big family. Deep down she must like to be trained. I like this kind of little slut who looks high and mighty on the surface the most. The skinny man sitting at the other end of the table looked at Cheng Menjing's face obscenely. His eyes were shining with golden light. Let's go. Let's go drink with those girls and get to know each other. Who knows, we might be able to have sex tonight. The bearded man raised his head and drank all the wine in his bowl. He wiped his mouth casually, stood up, and swaggered over to Xiao Chen's table. This is not good, right? Old hey, don't you see there are 2 men at that table? Moreover, fighting in private will be disqualified and expelled from the inner martial arts world. If the sect leader finds out, we will be in big trouble. The skinny man saw the bearded man taking action and stopped him worriedly. He was the kind of person who was lecherous but did not have the guts to do it. It was okay for him to fantasize, but if he were to really fight, he would be a little guilty. Coward, what are you afraid of? Those 2 men look like they are made of wax. How can they compare to our guns and cannons? As long as we teach them a good lesson, they will not dare to say a word. The man with the crew cut hooked his arm around the skinny man's shoulder and dragged him over. But the skinny man was still a little hesitant. How could he explain if he was seen by the inner martial arts world people? Chapter 991. The buzz-cut guy glared at him and whispered in his ear, "You've been holding it in for a long time, haven't you? When we get the girl back, I'll let you fight with that girl for 300 rounds. She'll definitely not be able to leave you in the future." The skinny guy thought of that erotic scene and suddenly felt his lower abdomen heat up. He straightened his back, took a deep breath and strode toward Xiao Chen's table. A sneer flashed across Xiao Chen's mouth. Although he was eating with his head down and didn't seem to care about his surroundings, he had been releasing his divine sense and remained vigilant. He had long heard the three scumbags' words clearly. However, Xiao Chen didn't take the initiative to find trouble with them. What a joke, none of the girls around him were easy to deal with. If they wanted to covet them, they had to see how much they were worth first. "Beauties, are you eating? How about you give us face and have a drink or two with us?" The bearded man came to the table and sat down between Tian Souring and Linger. He said with a straight face, as the saying goes, meeting is fate. "You two are so beautiful, how boring it is to eat with these two cowards. Brother will introduce you to a few strong men. I guarantee that you will be happier than gods, ha ha ha." Linger and Tian Souring both frowned and stood up at the same time. They stared at the bearded man with disdain and turned to sit next to Xiao Chen. Now that they were in the martial arts world, they didn't want to take the initiative to cause trouble. If they broke the rules and were kicked out, it would be terrible. The bearded man was about to pour the wine, but suddenly the space next to him was empty. He was stunned. He didn't expect these two girls to react so quickly. He held the wine pot, and for a moment he didn't know whether he should continue to pour the wine or chase after Linger and sit next to her. He's right, these two are trash. One is a skinny white face, and the other is a four-eyed frog with glasses. How can they take care of you? They will be sucked dry in minutes. Let the three of us accompany you. The buzz-cut man sat down next to Ling Qianxue and laughed. Ling Qianxue's face darkened. Before she could react, the man with the crew-cut hair suddenly pulled the skinny man over and pushed him towards Cheng Menjing. He yelled, "Skinny man, hurry up and have a good chat with that young lady." When the skinny man was pushed, he simply took advantage of the situation and pounced over. He was now drunk. Since he had already done it, he might as well do it to the end. Cheng Menjing glared at the man with the buzz cut in disgust. She slightly leaned to the side, dodging the skinny man's pounce, and then reprimanded in a tender voice, "Are you all drunk? Get out of my sight, don't act like a drunkard here. Little girl, you're wrong. How can this place be cool? Of course your body is the coolest. Don't waste the skinny guy's good intentions. Hurry up and let him cool off." The man with the buzz cut smiled lewdly and reached out to touch Ling Qianxue's thigh. "Girl, your legs are really good. You practice yoga a lot, right? What positions do you like?" Slap. There was a loud slap in the face. Before the man's hand could touch his thigh, he leaned back and felt a burning pain on his left cheek. The man with the buzz cut covered his cheek and looked around blankly. "Did someone just slap me? But I didn't see who did it." Get lost. While the man with the buzz cut was in a daze, Ling Qianxue took a step back and then lightly kicked his chin. Bang. Ah. The man with the buzz cut screamed. He didn't have time to react and was directly kicked out. He fell heavily on the ground and spat out a few teeth. Blood flowed down from the corner of his mouth. His mouth was moaning, but he couldn't even speak. "Motherf asterisk king bitch, how dare you hit me?" Seeing this scene, the man with the beard almost exploded in anger. He threw the wine bottle and didn't bother to flirt with Ling Er anymore. He directly used his cultivation method and slapped Ling Qianxue. Bang. Another heavy sound rang out. Before the man with the beard's palm could touch Ling Qianxue's chest, he suddenly felt a strong wave of warrior chi coming from behind. Caught off guard, he was directly sent flying. Ouch! The man with the beard also cried out in pain and fell beside the man with the buzz cut. Blood kept bubbling from the corner of his mouth. The two looked at each other in horror. You're at the peak of level 6 Martial General. The skinny guy stood up and pointed at Ling Er in shock. Never in his wildest dreams would he have imagined that these girls, who looked like pretty vases, actually possessed such profound strength. "I'm only at the level of Martial General and you're already this scared? Do you want to continue to stay and test out the feeling of flying, or do you want to take those two scum and roll back?" Ling Er said coldly. She originally didn't want to make a move, but she was afraid that the man with the beard would suddenly attack and Ling Qianxue would be injured. So, after a short moment of hesitation, she gave the man with the beard a slap from behind. Female hero, spare me, I'll take them away now. I promise I won't come back and cause trouble for you guys again." The skinny guy was so scared that he peed in his pants. He scrambled over, holding the man with the beard with his left hand and holding the buzz cut with his right. He didn't even look back as he ran back to his room as if he was running for his life. Looking at the backs of the three people leaving, Xiaoqin curled his lips. When those people were about to make a move, he wanted to make a move, but Ling Er and Ling Qianxue beat him to it. They beat them up so badly that he could only sit and watch the show. I thought that the people who came to participate in the trial were of good quality. I didn't expect there to be such scum. If I wasn't afraid of being disqualified, I would have killed them with a slap. Cheng Minjing frowned and complained unhappily as she looked at the skinny guy running away. That's right, that's right. How dare you try to take advantage of Soursis? Do you have a Maserati or something? Do you have a mansion? Really, do you really think we're easy to bully? Tian Wangshu waved his fist and said angrily. Xiaoqin was a little speechless. If they had thrown out their car and house keys, you would have run away with them? You really don't think before you speak. Forget it, this kind of scum, it's enough to teach them a lesson. If we really beat them to death, I'm afraid we'll be in big trouble, Ling Qianxue said, then cleared the dishes and sat down to continue eating. That buzz-cut guy got slapped, it was you who did it, right? Linger also returned to her original seat. She turned around and asked Xiaoqin, you're so fast. Even I didn't see how you slapped him. It seems that your cultivation is higher than before. Ling Er was sitting beside Xiaoqin just now, but she only saw Xiaoqin put down the chopsticks in his hand, then pick them up again in less than a second, and then the buzz-cut got slapped for no reason. Only then did she realize that it was Xiaoqin who did it, and no one present saw Xiaoqin's actions. Chapter 992. Yes, I only patted him lightly. I didn't dare to use too much strength. There are so many people watching. If someone dies, we will definitely be the ones to suffer. Xiaoqin nodded. Ever since he came to the inner Wulin, he had been a little more restrained. He didn't dare to be as unscrupulous as before. After all, there were people who were more powerful than him everywhere. It was better to avoid trouble. Xiaoqin is right. Everyone should be careful. Don't hurt people unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't be fooled by that Tang Qianqi's taking care of us. If something bad happens, he will definitely turn against us. People from the big families in the inner Wulin are like that. Jia Muzin said sympathetically. He knew Tang Qianqi quite well. This person was like most of the children born of concubines. He knew that he had no hope of reaching the top, so he attached himself to the direct descendants of the family and then took the opportunity to plunder money. He was the type who wouldn't do anything without benefits. As long as he received benefits from others, he would do anything. The skinny man carried his two brothers back to the room with great difficulty. He quickly gave them medicine and took out ice packs to apply on their wounds. He applied medicine and bandaged their wounds. After being busy for a while, the two gradually woke up. However, they were still a little groggy and could only lie on the bed to rest. Dong dong dong. Suddenly there was a knock on the door. The skinny man almost jumped up in shock. He thought it was the girls from before who came to seek revenge. He paced around the room like an ant on a hot pan for a while. After a while, he decided to pretend that he was not there and not open the door to avoid being beaten up for no reason. Brother Wei, are you in the room? Let's go out for a drink while it's still early. It's my treat. The knocking outside the door stopped. A male voice sounded and then knocked a few more times. Ah, is it Brother Hong? Please wait a moment. Skinny Wei let out a long breath and wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He knew this voice. It was Hong Dingrui who lived in the room next door. Hong Dingrui was a capable disciple of the Xuanyu sect, an orthodox sect in the outer martial arts world. He had come to the inner martial arts world with Skinny Wei and the others in the last batch. Since they got along well, they quickly became fair-weather friends. They often drank and talked about women together. They could be said to be good friends who shared the same rotten taste. Skinny Wei broke out in cold sweat from fear, and he hurriedly ran over to open the door and said apologetically, I'm sorry, Big Brother Hong. I made you wait for so long. 2 of my brothers are injured and I'm taking care of them now. What? How did Brother Nyo and Brother Zhou get injured? They were fine when you saw them in the afternoon? Hong Dingrui stared blankly as he saw the 2 of them lying on the bed sickly. One of them was half sitting and half sitting, his chin was swollen like a ball, while the other was naked with a large purple patch on his back. It seemed that their injuries were not light. Sigh, what else could have happened to them? They were beaten up. When we went downstairs to eat just now, we happened to see a few exquisite chicks. Originally we wanted to invite them for a drink or two and reminisce, but we never expected that those stinking B** cheese would actually make a move directly. What do you think is going on? Skinny Wei sighed heavily and gave a simple recount of the incident. Damn. Those B** cheese are quite daring. They even dare to beat you up. Don't they know that you're my brother? Hong Dingrui slammed the door and said angrily. Big brother Hong, don't mention it. Skinny Wei rolled his eyes and put on a bitter face. He added fuel to the fire. We purposely told them your name, but they beat us up a few more times. The main thing is that one of the girls is a martial general and we can't defeat her. Among the three of them, the highest cultivation was only at the peak stage 10 martial mentor, and they were no match for Ling Er. Damn, how dare they be so arrogant. Come with me. Hong Dingrui pulled Skinny Wei to the railing of the corridor on the second floor. He looked down at the dining hall and said, Brother Wei, just point out the person for me and don't worry about anything else. Isn't she just a martial general? I'll bring a bunch of people and take care of her in minutes. Then I'll catch those girls and let you three brothers have fun. How can we do that? We're not as skilled as them, so how can we trouble you, big brother Hong? Skinny Wei was delighted, but he still said a few words of humility. What are you talking about? Hong Dingrui put on a straight face. Aren't we brothers? There's no need to talk about trouble between brothers. Hurry up. Then I'll thank big brother Hong first. Skinny Wei agreed. He looked around and pointed at Ling Qinshui and Ling Er, who had finished their meal and were waiting for the bill. He said, Look, it's them. Just now, younger brother Nyo and younger brother Zhou were beaten up to that state by that chick in tight clothes and the sluts by her side. Oh, they're all new faces. I don't think I've seen them before in the martial arts world. Could it be that they're all solo cultivators from the secular world? Hong Dingrui glanced at Xiao Chen's table, and his eyes were immediately attracted. Top quality? All of them were top quality beauties. I've never seen such beautiful girls in the martial arts world. I'm not too sure about this, but I've never seen them before. I guess they're new here today. Skinny Wei scratched his head and said, Whether they're new or not, I'll definitely help you. Hong Dingrui licked his lips, and then he turned around and patted Skinny Wei in a righteous manner as he said, Brother Wei, go take care of brother Nyo and brother Zhou first. I'll bring my men over right now and help all of you take revenge. Wait for my good news. However, Hong Dingrui naturally wouldn't hand over these top-quality girls so easily. His plan was to send Skinny Wei away first, then call a bunch of people over to get the girls over. He and his brothers in the martial arts sect would enjoy them first, and then talk about it after they've had enough fun. Good. Then I'll thank brother Hong on behalf of the three of us first. I'll treat you and your brothers to a good meal some other day as a way to return the favor. Skinny Wei expressed his gratitude with a face full of joy. Look at you, I've already said that we're good brothers. Don't treat me like an outsider. If there's nothing else, I'll go and prepare first. Those girls should be going upstairs soon. Hong Dingrui waved his hand casually, turned around and walked towards his own room. Skinny Wei looked at Hong Dingrui's disappearing figure in excitement, and shook his head a little helplessly. He turned around and walked back. He wasn't an idiot, so he naturally understood what Hong Dingrui was thinking. However, the three of them were indeed not strong enough, so they didn't dare to have any improper thoughts. They only hoped that Hong Dingrui would remember to leave some soup for them after he finished the meat. Chapter 993. Xiao Chen and the others had their fill. It was already dark outside and they were too lazy to go out for a stroll. They were not familiar with the surroundings, so they chose to go back to their rooms to rest. Xiao Chen, this room's soundproofing isn't good. Don't make too much noise at night. Jianghu stood at the door of the room and winked at Xiao Chen. Previously, they were out in the open with such a large group of people. In order not to attract attention, Xiao Chen chose to stay with Jianghu. Now that they had two luxurious suites in this inn, Xiao Chen naturally chose to stay with the girls. He could also seize the time to cultivate. Although Jianghu didn't have any objections, he felt a little sad. It was boring to live alone in such a large room. If he had known this would happen, he would have found a girlfriend in university. Then he wouldn't have been so lonely. Jianghu, what nonsense are you talking about? Cheng Minjing glared at Jianghu and scolded him. Sister Minjing, this four-eyed guy is obviously jealous of Xiao Chen. Let's ignore him. I'll sleep with you at night and I won't make any strange sounds. I won't let him eavesdrop. Tian Souring pulled Cheng Minjing's hand and smiled. Souring, you keep calling yourself Sister Menjing and you call yourself Sister Souring. Who's the senior here? I'm getting confused. Xiaoqin teased. He took out the key and was about to open the door. From the corner of his eye, he saw a group of people walking toward him aggressively. Xiaoqin put down the key again. Although he didn't know the reason, his intuition told him that these people were here to cause trouble. There was no need to open the door. He might as well wait and see. Of course it's because Sister Menjing is the senior. She's the main wife, I'm the second wife, and Chen Xue and Ling are the junior wives. Oh, and Chu Xia too, although she won't admit it. Ah. Tian Souring laughed proudly. Hey. All of you stop right there. Cheng Menjing was about to open her mouth when a loud shout came from not far away. Everyone turned their heads and saw Hong Dingrui rushing over with a group of men. He stopped in front of Xiaoqin and shouted angrily, "Do you know the rules?" There were only a few of them, yet they dared to stay in a big room? Everyone is here to train, not to seek pleasure. Be careful not to provoke public anger. You. Just as Tian Suruan was about to flare up, he was held back by Xiaoqin. He took a step forward and asked calmly, "Oh? Then what do you want?" At this time Hong Dingrui was carefully looking at Cheng Menjing, Ling Chenxue and the others. Looking at them up close, he realized that these girls were not only beautiful, but also had their own unique characteristics. It made his heart itch. No wonder Skinny Wei and the others were so impulsive. As for the group of people behind Hong Dingrui, other than his senior and junior brothers from Xuanyu faction, there were also some disciples from other factions. They were all called over by Hong Dingrui because he was afraid that they were not strong enough. At this time they were staring greedily at the girls, their faces filled with undisguised lust. These people were originally lusting after the beauties. They came here to pretend to be upholding justice, but in fact they wanted a share of the loot. Anyway, there were so many beauties of different styles here. With such a large group of people, they could easily get a few over with just a few threatening words. Everyone could play together, and when they were tired of playing, they could switch to continue playing with each other. Why not? Hearing Xiaoqian's question, Hong Dingrui thought that the other party was afraid. He waved his hand proudly and said, "How about it? Of course you guys should quickly give up the room and let the inner martial artists stay. They will be here in a few days." "Oh, but if that's the case, we won't have any rooms." Xiaoqin asked without batting an eyelid, "How do you think we should allocate our rooms?" "Don't worry, I've already thought about it for you guys." Hong Dingrui said seriously, "How about this? It's too empty for each of us to have a room. These women can be paired with us. One woman per room will do. If it's not enough, we can change rooms." The girls immediately looked angry. Before they could say anything, Hong Dingrui looked at Xiaoqin and Jianghu and said in a strange tone, "As for you and that four-eyed guy, the two of you can share a small room. Anyway, you guys look gay, so it's suitable for you guys to stay together." Ah. After Hong Dingrui finished speaking, the people behind him suddenly burst into laughter. All of them looked at Xiaoqin and Jianghu's lower body. Someone took out a piece of soap and threw it in front of the two of them. "Oh my, I didn't expect you guys to have two faces. I think you guys are a group of real gays. There are actually people who carry soap with them and throw it everywhere. It really scared me." Tian Souring looked down at the soap on the ground, smacked her lips and sighed. Jianghu, Cheng Menjing, Ling Chenxue and the others were originally full of anger and were about to explode. However, when they heard Tian Souring's words, they were instantly amused. Xiaoqin was angry and amused at the same time. He couldn't help but roll his eyes at Tian Souring. This little girl was really insensitive. From time to time she would say something that made people not know whether to laugh or cry. What should they say about her? Who the hell threw it? Hong Dingrui was a little embarrassed after being ridiculed. He glared at his men behind him and was too lazy to argue with them anymore. He said impatiently, "All right, don't talk about those useless things. My suggestion is not bad, right? Have you guys thought about it? The suggestion is not bad, but what if I don't agree?" Xiaoqin spat out the toothpick in his mouth and said casually. He was so angry that he almost laughed. Why were the outer martial artists' thoughts so weird? No wonder Ma Baobao and his son were so stupid and liked to play trapeze. And the smiling Mithria of the joyful clan was the same. This decision has been made by everyone. You have to agree even if you don't agree. Hong Dingrui looked at Xiaoqin's indifferent expression and frowned slightly. He didn't expect this guy to be such a troublemaker. It seemed that if he didn't teach him a lesson he wouldn't give in. At this thought, Hong Dingrui activated his mental cultivation method and instantly released the strength of a martial king realm great perfection. He threatened Xiaoqin, "Hurry up, I don't have time to waste with you. Just tell me if you want to change rooms or not." A martial king realm great perfection could basically look down on anyone in this inn. Therefore Hong Dingrui was confident in his martial arts and took the lead to show off. "Based on your attitude, do you still dare to make a move if I don't agree to change rooms?" Xiaoqin asked expressionlessly as if he didn't feel Hong Dingrui's imposing manner. If it was a few months ago, Xiaoqin might have been a little afraid when he saw an expert at the martial king realm great perfection. But now, a cultivator of this level was nothing to him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.